Good evening, everybody. Welcome along to another Blether. Thought I'd surprise you once more with no intro and just jump straight in. The reason for no intro is I have just had no time to put together the intro to this week, unfortunately, for good reasons. Being absolutely manic down at our new bar, which we announced. Can't remember when we announced it. Was it just yesterday or the day before?
Can't remember. Wednesday, wasn't it? You put it up, and then you were in the local newspaper. Actually, you're never out the local newspaper, to be honest. We're like, oh, yeah, that guy again.
Yeah, but at least this is for something positive. Normally, I'm moaning about the parking or people nicking stuff or some crap like that. At least we are. They've seen Louise's comment. Oh my goodness, there's a new bar. Yeah. News travels fast.
Definitely. So yeah, I was at Fog House today. I was like so excited when I found it. I was like, oh, another one. So yeah, of course.
Yeah. It was Blether Castle you were at.
Yeah, exactly. I didn't know they had one. I'd never actually heard of a Fog House until you told me what your brand meant when I first started working for you. And then of course, Ali did his post about it on socials, and then I found one today. I'm like, oh my god, these things are everywhere. Common as much.
There's a German biker club apparently that once you hear of them once, you'll never stop hearing about them. I can't remember the name of it, but it came up, and it was true enough. It came up on my podcast, the fish one that I always listen to, and about 4 times since like 2 weeks ago, I've heard of this German biker club, and I can't remember who it is. If anyone's heard of a German biker club like more than once, let us know. But yeah, it's probably like your phone is listening to you and it pings up. It's one of these kind of crazy things. Yeah, let's see what. Sorry, there you go.
Oh no, it's because there's a name to it, isn't it? It's like something that you think you've never come across before or never noticed before, and then you just start seeing it all the time. And it's like I don't know, like situational awareness or something. It's because like I got my car and I'd never seen my breed of car before, and then I'm like, I've never seen one of these before, and then now I'm just like, oh, there's one behind one. So yeah,
I'm not sure if we breed cars, but I know what you mean. Yeah, when you buy a spaniel, you see spaniels everywhere. Yeah. Is that the same as when you join a queue and you think that every other queue goes faster than your one? Is that the same kind of thing?
Yeah.
No. Let's see what the people at home are drinking tonight. Dave Fackerson straight in with the Signatory Speyside M, 13-year-old, that also secret Speyside whiskey that nobody knows what it is. I hope you're enjoying that one, Dave. Good evening to Scott. Good evening, Frank. That's Jura, you in as well. Good evening to you. Good evening to Louise. Good evening to Marie Lepart. Great to have you online as well, Marie. Great to see you. Tim Powell's is in. Good evening to you. Scott is on the Glasgow Manthania finish. Let us know how that is going down for you. Rick is coming in from a foggy San Francisco. Good evening to you. Petehead is riding a motorcycle, but he's not German. Maybe you'll hear about them now that I've mentioned it.
Is he riding it right now, just like holding the phone up as he drives? Because that's not safe, actually.
Maybe he's just got earplugs in and listening to us.
Potentially. I like that
we'll
idea.
Wave at him just in case he is watching. Louise has got a Ben Nevis 10 because of course I do. We know it's one of your favourites. Good evening. David Muir is watching on YouTube, as is Jeremy. Good evening to you guys. Tim Powell's is on the Midgie 2, of course, the Arne Markin second release. A wonderful, wonderful whiskey. David, gutted that you can't make it up this weekend. Hope the wife is doing well. Obviously, Dave came up and helped us paint new Foghouse Bar. Yes, I have got a new T-shirt, Dave. I am fully going brand wanker on this one tonight.
100% brand wanker tonight. Love it.
I have to. Well, we were going to talk about it last week with Ali, but we never even got around to it.
No, his wife turned off the internet. No, she didn't. She didn't.
In honor of tonight's guest, I am on an Amontillado sherry from the Diatomists. I'm going to get slagged off by Diego for that pronunciation when he comes on. Going for sherry, it's nice, it's summery, it's warm, and I just love a banging sherry. We don't talk about it enough, or when we do, we'll always talk about it from a whiskey kind of perspective, really. So I'm gonna sherry on down tonight.
Nice.
What's in your glass?
So I was at Lochnagar today, and I didn't buy a bottle because I thought I had one, and I thought, oh, that's kind of on brand because they only use sherry casks, and I can't find my whiskey, and I think it's probably one of the ones my ex-husband annihilated before I got rid of him. So I just
Blame the guy who can't defend it.
well, either that or I'm just not looking properly. I'm sure it's there. So I decided to go for Cragganmore after hearing that about them being closed now. So I think that news came out last week, didn't it? And I've never opened this because it's Distiller's Edition one. I'm probably not going to open it yet because A, you know how I get on with opening bottles live, and B, I've forgotten to pick up a glass because I was in such a rush. I've literally just got in the door. So at some point I'll go and get a glass and open this. But that's what I've done.
I feel Frank at home, Peterhead, is saying he's in a gang of his own. So that's we'll be your gang. The Blethering is your gang.
Exactly, we're your peoples.
Absolutely. So let's get our guest on. Let's see what's in his glass tonight. He is joining us all the way from Spain. We have Diego. Good evening to you.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us. Great of you to give up your Thursday night to talk to us and hopefully educate us on the good drink that is sherry.
No pressure.
No pressure at all. What's in your glass tonight? Let's get the easy question out of the way. Have you having
I've decided to go for something that I'm very fond of, which is a 8-year-old Glendronach, but the French edition, the Octorin. Being a Terry Pratchett person, it has a double meaning. I mean, obviously, it's a very, very good whiskey, but at the same time, in Terry Pratchett terms, there's an innate color, which is exactly the same name as the bottle, which is called Octorin, and that is supposed to be the color of magic, and kind of reserve that bottle for special occasions and so on, because you kind of taste the color of magic.
I love that so much.
That is such a cool, I mean, absolute brand, spot on marketing there. Taste magic.
It is an ex-bourbon and probably Oloroso double cask, and it's banging. Shame it's just gone.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, Glendronach obviously just up the road from us. One of our finest local distilleries. I'm sure Kat won't mind me saying that.
Yeah,
but
one of.
Yeah, one of. Yeah. We love Glendronach. I do, being more of a sherry fan than Kat. I think it's right up there. And just really kind of took hold of sherry cask whiskey when Macallan was starting to do their whole marketing thing and getting a little bit out of control with the prices. Glendronach was the first one that, certainly under Billy's stewardship, a few years ago, but really taken on by Rachel Barry as well, and did some wonderful stuff. So I think was the Octarine, was it a Billy Walker release, wasn't it? So it's been out for a while. Yeah,
it's been out for a while. Yeah.
I
think I keep it in a little corner.
I love that you're using your special whiskey for the Blether, and I think if Rachel Barry heard you describing the color of magic, I think she would actually adore that, because she's just she's so eloquent. She puts together such amazing. I just love listening to her talk. She's it's like she just kind of spews bramble juice when she talks, because she's just so lovely. I've got a proper crush on her. Rachel Barry spews bramble juice. Put that on a t-shirt. But yeah, she's so lovely. I think she'd love that description more so than spewing bramble juice, to be fair.
Yeah, I think you know what I think? I think you sit in a corner some nights,
alone,
having taken some mushrooms or something, and just write down phrases that come into your head.
I wish they were planned because it implies some sort of control over my own brain, but clearly there's no control there at all. But yeah, I think she would appreciate that very much. That's a really cool film.
Oh, let's tell her at some point.
We will.
Yeah, well, if she would just reply to my emails and come on the Blether, like that would be. I'll tell her.
Come on to my Blether and spew bramble juice. That would be great.
Yeah, but maybe we won't get her to watch this one back as a reference, but
yeah. She's maybe watching already. I know she loves a sherry cask and a trip to Spain. Because they have the Spanish lady as part of their inspiration for the latest ode to the Master's Anthology. Really, the Spanish lady was heavily used, and their ghost is a Spanish lady as well. Travelled over in a cask and then ran away.
Yeah, because I told you this story and you'd never heard it before. I told you on the Blether, you're like, I've never heard that before.
Yeah, you did. Well, you mentioned it off Blether, but then we brought it on as part of our Halloween special, I think it was. Because the marketing was out for the anthology, and she was in it, and that was the first time I put the two connections together of the ghost and the lady dancing. So yeah, I mean, obviously sherry's a big part of Glendronach. Diego, do you deal directly with Glendronach, or what? Let's speak to the guys at home. What's your role? What is it that you do for the sherry and the whiskey industry?
I do a few bits and pieces. I started with the sherry whiskey connection, then kind of shifted slowly towards the cask procurement for production. So nothing like invest in casks or anything like that, but just finder of casks. And as I preemptively said, every time I was in Scotland, I make a living out of sticking my nose in bungholes. Just to prevent any jokes, I'll crack the joke first and then we'll be fine. And with that, it's more the kind of specialist cask side of things, because I don't have that volume, that size to say, all right, let's sort out 10,000 units per year or however many. Slowly working towards developing that, and then another couple of things that I'm doing in terms of whiskey or related to whiskey are starting or restarting an import and distribution business in Spain to bring whiskeys that don't exist, because I'm going to go full on with that. I was in Speyside. I was in Elgin, actually, in a petrol station in Elgin, and I was waiting to pay, and I saw like 60 to 80 different whiskies on the shelves, and I thought to myself, this is obscene and unacceptable that this petrol station in Elgin has more whiskey than pretty much any or most cocktail bars in Spain. And in terms of that diversity and quality, that's no bueno. We need to do something about it, and kind of restarting that project. And then the last one is organizing Whiskey Life Madrid at the end of this year. So a bit of a full plate.
That's quite a resume. I mean, like bunghole sniffer is obviously, the catchiest bit out of all of that, but that's quite a broad spectrum across the industry, like a little bit of everything there. So talk us through your day then. Like, what does an average day look like for you? Like, what's your sort of the main focus of what you do, other than the sniffing bungholes, obviously?
Summer is a quiet time for wood, because it's too hot. And one of the concerns is integrity. And with that little thing that we all are thoroughly enjoying called Brexit, things get to be a little bit more delayed and so on in transit. I'm not getting into politics, just the operational side of things. So risking a 40-foot container full of very expensive sherry casks to get stuck in customs for 2.5 weeks or 3 weeks on top of the 2 extra weeks, under 36 degrees and so on, that's not good for anyone. So In summertime, it's more on, in particularly this year, focusing more on developing the event, the Whiskey Live event, and then starting to plan September and on, because in terms of interaction with customers for the whiskey or for the casks, everything slows down a little bit. So it's more about planning and conversation stage. Then you have the second half of September and on, which is off to the races, manic days through and through. One day you're having calls all day, another day you have to rush to Jerez because you have to check casks, and another day you're just in a coma trying to recover.
That's interesting, because I always thought that the summer over here, when a lot of the distilleries go into certainly reduced production, or they go into a silent season because we have less rain, so they'd make less whiskey. I thought that would be the chance for the distillery managers or these guys to get over to Spain and start looking at cask selections. But you're saying you guys slow down there as well.
Spain, July and August in Spain is a very, very difficult couple of months, because everybody stops and it's too hot to work, particularly if you go down south. We're talking between 38 and 43 degrees, no problem. On an average day, if it gets really hot, I think last year they hit 50s, low 50s. Who's going to do anything outdoors at that temperature?
But you guys have siestas in the afternoon, isn't it, to get out of the heat?
Yeah, but it doesn't quite cut it. I mean, you wake up and it's 32 degrees at 9 a.m. in the morning or 10 a.m. in the morning. There's no siesta that is going to solve that problem.
Yeah, just coma. That's mad.
That's the thing, and it's a little bit difficult, and also holiday season for everyone. July, August, potentially September as well. So you play with those, and yes, if anyone wants to get some work done, absolutely. But for the most part, even if we agree on anything linked to casks, it won't happen until, or I will suggest that it doesn't happen until second half of September or early September, give or take, because it's just too hot. Doesn't make any sense.
That's interesting. We have Callum Fraser watching on Facebook. Good evening, Callum. Great to have you on. And Paul Dempsey.
Hey, Paul.
Is saying hello as well. Great to see some of our fellow whiskey industrialists joining in. Callum, obviously the manager of Glenfarne, another absolutely banging sherry cask release. Just it's such a good whiskey. Love Glenfarne.
Such a gorgeous distillery as well, though. I love that it's just like it's almost like stepping back in time when you go in. They're just like so kind of retro and cool and twee at the same time. You just kind of like, I don't know, I just love it. And then direct firing, of course, like another local distillery, which I'm not going to name drop anybody else.
I always love telling people about Glenfarne. The name means Valley of the Green Grass, and you drive down. It's got this lovely long drive and the grass is greener than any other distillery. So I always tell the guys when I'm doing a tour that the reason that is because they spray the new make over the grass, and not only does it make it really green, but it also saves them a fortune on gardening fees because the grass comes up already half cut.
Did you come up with that yourself? Because that's really quite. Usually your jokes are shit, but that was actually really good.
Thanks, Kat. Thank you.
I like that one. That's really good.
I elaborated it on something that I got told. So yeah, I like that. But it's great because they really start believing you when you tell them about the spirit giving them this real green grass. And then they don't know whether to believe anything else you say for the rest of the tour.
You can just see a little herd of haggis feeding off the green grass of Glenfarne.
You can see them chewing it, trying to get the spirit out of these blades of grass, like a herd of cows. Yes, Jeremy, I thought that was very harsh of Kat to say that my jokes are usually quite shit.
Yeah, but we're all thinking it. I'm just a person that sees it.
Diego, we
Yeah.
love most people in Scotland who have sherry love a sherry cask whiskey. I know
Mm-hmm.
I certainly do. And we hear, we go to distillery visitor centres, and it's part of our visitor centre bingo when the tour guide says, we don't get as many sherry casks, or the quality's not as good anymore, or people aren't drinking sherry. So to make sure we get great casks, we need people to be drinking more sherry. It's kind of, there's always this kind of, it's quite a myth, because I'm sure there is some truth behind that. What's the sherry situation like? Are people still drinking enough sherry, or is it purely the secondary industry that we're working on?
Nah, there's not enough people. The cocktail industry has helped greatly, and that's also obviously merit of the bodegas who have seen that that line of connection with the end consumer. You make a cocktail with Fino, with Oloroso, with PX, that will bring the liquid closer, much like with whiskey at the end of the day. But we're here to help people, so drink as much sherry as you can within the realms of health and safety. There is also the distinction, and there's a bit of a hot topic and a bit of a point of conversation and discussion. Oh, the sherry casks are not what they used to be, because they used to be all Solera butts and and they're not as good as the seasoned casks are not as good as the very old Solera butts. Some other people would say that wood is Ian, hey.
Ian Allen of Glenmurray fame.
I love all the love we're getting for you. It's like you've got a wee fan club joining in. It's awesome.
I'm a very annoying person. I talk to a lot of people. So when you have that discussion, you have arguments for both of them. At the end of the day, if we want to get techie, sherry at most is going to be 22% ABV, right? So in wood, there's tannins that are soluble in water, and then some others that are soluble in alcohol. So if we have 22% ABV, the action of the alcohol dissolving those tannins is going to be way slower than in a whiskey that is racked at 62.5 or 63 or however high ABV the distillery decides. So yes, there's a saturation of liquid in the cask, in the butt, in the Solera butt, because that's what you want to produce sherry. You don't want any wood notes, because you need those casks to be neutral, to be a vessel for the production. But then on the other hand, the whole they're not active. I'm not going to. I cannot agree to that. It's a different type of activity. It's like slow cooking and pressure cooking, or and compared to the seasoned casks are tailor-made for whiskey, because most distilleries nowadays decide on the specs: type of oak, toast levels, size, seasoning time, type of sherry. So it's a completely different. It's different animals. So just give love to both. Don't pardon my French. Don't be a dick. Just they're both good. And then if we go to the history of the sherry cask, which is a very, very interesting point, there were never old butts. They were transportation casks. So the original sherry butts or sherry casks were vessels that were used to move wine from A to B, and they were not returning because it was cheaper to keep them than to send them back to Spain. So then things happened, and some distilleries decided to go for the butts and so on and so forth because reasons. But there's this kind of black and whiteness around the sherry cask that I'm not very fond of, because it's very dismissive of the other side. And there's beautiful whiskies made with Solera butts. There's beautiful whiskies made with seasoned casks. So what's the problem? What do we want? Good whiskey or or romanticism around the origin of the cask and so on. If it's a cracking whiskey, just shut up and drink. That's I know I'm being a little bit too extreme and so on, but it's like
definitely not.
Extreme.
Do you think it comes from like misinformation though? Because I think when a lot of people think of sherry matured whiskey, they do just imagine some kind of old character with like a weathered hand going out to like the bodega and like rolling out this cask and it being kind of romantically shipped over to Scotland. And like I don't really think people have got a proper understanding potentially of like what actually they mean by sherry matured whiskey. Like, do you think that's sort of choosing one over the other, or it comes from misinformation, lack of understanding?
I'm going to answer you with something that has happened to me in a number of tastings that I do. I usually do sherry whiskey to understand both, or sometimes sherry, and we have whiskey as the guest to illustrate and so on. How many points? How many times can you ask someone or in a group and say, who doesn't like sherry? Hand raised. Why? It's too sweet. Because they're going flat out for the creams. They're going for not even that would be okay if they associated sherry with PX. I'm happy about it, but they're going for Bristol cream because their nan or their gran would drink that.
They see it once a year at Christmas, don't they? And that's
exactly
what sherry is.
That's the sherry that the kind of collective unconscious of the UK has. That's the concept of sherry that has to change, because that is the sherry that Spain decided to send to the UK based on your preferences back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And
when did that change? Because I was speaking to one of our first ever tastings we had when we opened the shop. It was with a chap called Peter Mackay. He was part of the Morrison Mackay distiller group. Morrison from obviously Morrison Bowmore. And Kenny Mackay was Peter's dad, and Kenny used to do like 5 sherry tastings a week in Scotland in the 60s, and then 1 whiskey tasting at the weekend, and that changed kind of in the mid to late 70s, I think he said. When did our culture change to, because you're not going to have 5 cream sherries, I expect it would be different styles.
So when it comes to sherry, they call them palos, which is types. So the unblended sherries, you have the 7, which are the Fino, Manzanilla, Amontillado, Oloroso, Palo Cortado, and then the 2 sweet ones, PX and Moscatel, right? Those are unblended. There are single malt sherries, if it makes any sense. And then you have the blends, and the blends can be Fino or Oloroso or Palo Cortado or whatever you want with PX. It's usually with PX, because it's a readily available one. Now, if you're familiar with the Amoroso edition of Talisker, Amoroso is a cream. It's an Oloroso with a little bit of PX, because the history says, legend, and let's go with it. That the owner of a bodega would go to a tabanco with his wife, and he would order an Oloroso, but ask the bartender to make his wife's Oloroso a little bit amoroso, meaning a little bit more loving, a little bit rounder, a little bit easier to drink. So they would pour a little bit of PX. That's one of the reasons behind that origin. Let's go with it because it sounds good. But that's a cream. Now, am I okay? Am I against anyone consuming cream? No, I think it's a delicious drink, and if you treat it properly, it's great. And there's an increasing tendency for seasoning with cream as well, and I'm totally on board with that. But back to Kat's question, yes, it's a matter of finding out the original 7, if it makes any sense. Sounds very epic. And then understanding where it comes from. I'm not aware of a specific date, but probably once the bottling became mandatory for sherry to be shipped out of Spain, that's when things started shifting a little bit. Not only because of the bottling and the origin of the bodega and so on, but also because there's less chance for anyone to tamper with that liquid for sales, as it has happened everywhere. I'm not pointing fingers at anyone.
Yeah, so I guess it was. Yeah, so that was in the 70s, wasn't it? The rule changed, or was it maybe early 80s that the law changed to say that it had to be bottled in Spain?
If I'm not mistaken, it's late 80s, early 90s.
Oh, was it as late as that?
I think it's like 88, isn't it? Is it right about that?
Something like that. Some say that it has to do with arrival to the EU in Spain, and there's a little bit of mishmash. Probably some bodegas started selling prior to that in bottles as well.
So I guess it became easier to ship in bulk, so they went with the most popular, which is cream, and that maybe limited the smaller. It wasn't worth sending the smaller batches out because they were.
Could very well be
market demand, which is a shame, because when we talk about sherry in any tasting, the two that people want to know is Oloroso and Pedro.
Oh, Mike just frozen.
Because that's what they read.
You froze for a second, Mike, and then you came back.
Okay, sorry. I was just saying that it's a shame that these sherries, let's call them the Magnificent Seven.
I love it.
To be even more epic. We talk about Oloroso and we talk about Pedro Jimenez in whiskey circles, because that's the two. Oloroso is by far the most popular one. Pedro Jimenez is the one that gives you that really unctuous, luxurious kind of mouthfeel and sweeter notes. When we say something's in a sherry cask and it looks like this, the colours like that, and it's maybe in a Fino or a Manzanilla cask, people look and say, oh, that's not sherry. That can't be sherry. It's like, this is probably more like, to me, this is more what I expect a sherry to taste like than what a Pedro Jimenez is. This is a Fino I've just cracked open. It's so good. And a day like this, out the fridge, a little bit of tonic in there. It's just, it's better than gin. It's so good.
I love that you said that while you're wearing your Gin Foghouse t-shirt.
I've actually gone all out. I'm sitting nibbling on olives and cheese just now. I'm proper tapassing out.
Tapassing out. I love it. I love that you just keep appearing with more and more bottles of sherry as well. This is fantastic. I need to try more sherry. I just haven't tried enough of it. But it's that thing of like, you should bang a bottle for yourself. It doesn't keep for very long. Am I right? Like once you've opened it, you kind of have to do something with it.
It depends.
Okay.
There's two big blocks. Well, 2.5. There's the biologically aged sherry, which is the ones with the floor and all that. So the clear ones, Manzanilla and Fino. Those are the delicate ones. Those are the ones that you need to, if you want, and I'm going to caveat this with, it all depends on what you like. Those are the delicate, crisp, acetaldehyde, green apple and olives and jasmine and so on. That's great. If you want to keep them like that, yes, within 3 to 5 days tops, get them out of the way. That said, if you open a bottle of Fino, you should do it with friends most of the times. And that means that bottle is going to disappear like this. So that's fine. There's the other side of the things, the dark side of sherry, which is Oloroso, and that is the one that thrives with oxidization. So that thing that hurts most wines makes that one thrive, right? So it's kind of moving from the fluffy pink life of the Fino and the Manzanilla and the sex dungeon of the Oloroso. It's like leather and just the more you hurt me, the better.
Oloroso is dirty. I love her.
Yeah, and
I love that.
And those, if you open a bottle of Oloroso, even if it's not a very good Oloroso, if you chuck it in a cupboard, you let it oxidize, it will improve because it will continue to evolve in the bottle. The more air contact that it has, the better it will change. And then you have the intermediate ones, the mixed ones, the Amontillado and the Palo Cortado, which are the ones that have a little bit of biological and a little bit of oxidization. I call them mixed ones, but sticking to the inappropriate thing, we could call them bi-curious sherries. No problem. They've gone a little bit on both sides, and those are extremely delicate. But depending on the age, you can take your time as well. If we're talking about 20 plus years on average, what's going to happen is that you will have more oxidization than biological aging for the most part. And that means that they will keep evolving and they will not be losing any freshness. Some Amontillados are closer to a 50-50 or 60-40 split, and they have still that crisp, yeasty side of the biologically aged sherries. And the ones that are a little bit older, they get to the solvent, nail polish, oak, leather, coffee, tobacco leaves, and so on. And that also applies to very old Olorosos. Now, with the Fino and the Manzanilla, if you like that element of roasted almonds, roasted nuts, and so on, you open a bottle of Fino, let it oxidize. It will eventually get to a little bit of that and give you a little bit more of a buttery note and a yeasty note, depending on the nature of the Fino.
I guess if you're new to sherry, it'd be kind of fun to just try both ends of the spectrum, wouldn't it? To kind of just see how it changes and see what you kind of prefer. Because I mean, I don't have a sweet tooth at all, and I know sherry's not all about sweetness, but I kind of like from your description, like the kind of Fino sort of vibe seems like maybe it'd be a little bit more of my thing. I love the Oklahoma that was matured in the Fino one, because I kind of think it kind of married to like their new make spirits, like the sort of natural flavors in new make spirit. I thought it was just such a nice fit.
Yeah.
But yeah,
it's amongst some of the driest drinks you can get, really, isn't it? In terms of wine, it's far drier than a dry white wine. Certainly the Fino and Manzanilla.
You cover both extremes. I've not discussed the sweet ones, the PX and the Moscatel. Those are infinite. You open that bottle, your grandchildren can drink it, no problem. They got so much sugar. No, the minimum sugar content is over 240 grams of sugar per liter for PX to be considered as PX sherry. So it's just diabetes in a bottle, so tread carefully, but it's going to stay like that. It's going to keep oxidizing a little bit and kind of sharpening. But it will also concentrate. As a point of example, I tried a very old PX a couple of years ago. The sugar content was about 515 grams of sugar per liter. But it was not overly sweet because it was so old that the acidity spiked, so they would compensate each other. So, but back to the discussion, the Fino and the Manzanilla are very, very dry. Oloroso is very dry as well. The thing is that with the glycerol that it has, it feels sweeter, it feels thicker, it feels, the nose of Oloroso is sweet. When you try it, it's dry. Comparatively speaking, we might be talking about 0.5 grams of sugar per liter in Fino, maybe even 0.3. And when it comes to Oloroso, standard is 1.5, 1.6 grams. Yeah. So it's not that far off. It's just the way that the wine is structured and how it feels. The more you age, though, the sharper it's going to feel because of the acidity.
It's kind of regarded as the sweetest of the dry range, isn't it? The Oloroso, in terms of flavor.
And calling it the less dry of the dry, because 1.5 grams is still super dry.
Yeah.
That's interesting. But I think most people are only familiar with the sort of PX and the Oloroso, I guess. The other thing that I noticed about sherries is it's the one time people actually really try and do the Spanish accent is when they say, like, Pedro Jimenez. It's like the one time they go for it and feel comfortable giving it a go. But I'm super cautious of it because I work with a lady who's fluent in Spanish, and now I only say Spanish sausage because I'm too scared to actually pronounce it. She corrects me every time. Every time I think I've got it right, she'll just bark. I don't even want to say it now in case she's watching and I say it wrong. But so I have the fears of, and I get it because I'm Scottish and people pronounce Scottish words wrong, so I do get that. But that just gives me the fear now. I'm like, do you go full in? Do you just go all balls in and go full on accent, or do you get like a mild accent? So yeah, because I noticed you were doing a full Pedro Jimenez mic, but like, I don't know, like, do you get offended if people don't do it, or do you get offended if people do it?
Oh yeah, call the police right away.
Yeah.
Oh,
I mean, how many times would you phone the police in a day, Kat, with people trying to pronounce Glengarry?
I've literally got them on speed dial. Like, the police actually have a restraining order against me, because like, it's not important, stop phoning. Like, but yeah, usually I don't know if it doesn't really annoy me, actually, because I get it, like, it doesn't look like how it's spelled, but yeah, I just think the sherry terms are the one things that people just kind of go for and really enjoy trying to get their teeth around, which I quite like. But yeah, I never know if I'm doing it right or not.
that's fine. As long as you drink sherry and you try, nobody should get offended. I mean, there's a difference between trying for the first or third time, and another thing is every day getting it wrong. And I'm not saying that's your case, but it's like everything. If you see that the other person is trying, it's fine. And worst case scenario, yeah, there's going to be some banter going, and that's it. I mean, at the end of the day, if I say whatever, if I pronounce Glengarry in a completely wrong way, are you going to worry too much if I love the whiskey?
Yeah. Probably not. I always just do the passive aggressive of, that's so cool that you like Glengarry, and just gradually correct them until they get it right. Mm-hmm. And then they just go home and forget how they pronounced it in the first place, but whatever. Yeah.
And I'm sure that you've had a number of times in which, and how is it? Glengarry. And what did I say? And how is it? Snap back and forth. That's fine.
My favourite was when somebody phoned the distillery and I said, "Good afternoon, Glengarry Distillery. How can I help you?" And they said, "Oh, fantastic. Can I just ask you how you pronounce the name of your distillery?" I was like, "Hello, Glengarry Distillery. Can I help?" Like, that's how we pronounce it. The clue was in how I answered the phone. But
that was all they phoned up for?
Yeah, because they just wanted to know how to pronounce the name of the distillery.
I thought you were going to say they phoned up and they said, "Oh, I've got the wrong one. I'm looking for Glengarry," and then they hung up on you.
So people do, like, so, you know, I've had that before as well. Like, "Oh, do you know our whiskey?" Like, "Well, no, but I've got one just like it. It's like Glengarrick, but it looks really similar to what you've got." I'm like, "No, it is Glengarry. You've just been mispronouncing." So yeah, it's just whatever. It's fun. If they've got a bottle of it, they've got a bottle of it. That's great. They can drink it, pronounce it however they like. We don't always need to care about those things, I suppose.
Louise,
if anyone gets
sorry, I'm just picking up on the accent there. Louise at home is saying she's always been too scared to tell Kat he's pronounced Glengarry until 2 years ago. That would be a good name for a music festival, the Glengarry Festival.
It would, I suppose. Oh yeah, it's like, so Glengarry did a rock festival. We could call it the Gee Rock Festival, I suppose. So in answer to Rick's question, what's the worst pronunciation you've heard? Is Louise's. That's pretty much it. Well, Dave's got a good question. Is there such a thing as a sherry tasting pack? That's quite a good question. Like especially like an intro.
If there's not, there will be soon.
Mike's writing that
down. There's some bodegas that bottle minis as well, but I'd say for anyone in the UK, just go to Sainsbury's, go to your
whiskey shop,
Waitroses, whiskey shops, etc. Obviously, but go anywhere. But just grab 3 Finos or two Finos and 2 Olorosos, one from a bodega and the other one from Waitrose or whoever, and obviously talk to your local shop and they will know what to recommend. But in terms of tasting, there should be something. Now the question would also be what kind of tasting we're talking about. Is it just flat out sherry tasting, or do we want to include a mini of a Oloroso finished or Oloroso matured whiskey to get that thing going? There's a number of options, but if it comes to sherry There's no such thing as far as I know. There should be.
I think certainly from our point of view in the shop, we've always been concerned as to, we covered it briefly earlier on about how long, once we've opened a bottle and poured it into our little sample kits, how long will that stay fresh? You think about, that oxidization. Will somebody open that up 2 weeks later, pour their Fino and think, oh, it's not for me, and they just don't have that freshness. So that's why we haven't really done that. What we are looking at doing and what we've got is like a sherry flight in our bar now that we've got the access to keep the wines fresh longer. We can do sherry flights, and that will be a Fino, an Oloroso, and a PX, probably kind of dry, medium dry, and then sweet kind of idea.
Also, and this is talking about things that make me want to call the police. There's only one type of Oloroso, which is dry. I just got off the rails right now, sorry. But you mentioned Oloroso, and it kind of brought me the whole, but is it sweet Oloroso or dry Oloroso we're tasting? No, there's just one Oloroso, which is dry. The sweet Oloroso is called cream. Bristol cream, India Pale cream, or whatever cream. It's a cream because it's a mix of Oloroso and PX. Louise asks, what's the weirdest cask finished dram I've ever had? I don't know. Amburana wood, but it was a rum made at Misinformation. The guys of Planteray now, they work with exotic woods, and Amburana. That's good news.
It was good.
Good news. It's very, very good. Also, you can see it because it kind of glows in a bit of a neon orange tinge, and you get that vanillin and that tonka bean in your face. Not even with the liquid, just the wood. It exudes tonka bean and vanillin. It's just phenomenal.
Where does that wood come from? Like what? It's like a variety of. Okay. That's cool.
So whiskey is off limits unless you go to a different country.
Yeah. For now. Yeah. If that's
for now.
Pull your finger out. Sorry. Get some of that in.
There was a little flurry of like people using different oak from different countries as like cask finishes, like just naming the oak, like we all meant to know, like Chinkapin was.
Chinkapin.
Yeah, like Chinkapin just appeared so like, and then I don't know if it's like fads or trends or just availability, whatever, or like one distillery does it and another one goes, actually, we'll have a go at that. But yeah, I don't know, like it's kind of died out a little bit, doesn't it? Like,
I think there's the. Sorry, Mike is making me laugh right now. He's an idiot.
Puss in Boots.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, because that's Antonio Banderas, isn't it? Does the voice for.
Yeah. We're not even from the same region, but in his mind, we all look the same and we all sound the same. That's friends for you. I think that the whole.
I thought he was talking about cat.
No, I don't know.
Nice.
So the whole thing of different oak types. There's also a bunch of distilleries experimenting with Scottish oak. There was the Mizunara thing, and while I was in Space at Festival, we had a bit of a Q&A with Billy Walker, and we talk wood, and you do research, and yes, it's just a bunch of different varieties out there, and yes, you get the different sub-varietals of American oak in the same way that you have 3 different types of French oak. But the thing is, you need to understand, or it needs to make sense. So just French oak, all right, which one of the 3 is it? Now the consumer is starting to want to know, what's the name? Is it Limousin? Is it Allier? Is it Française? What are we talking about? Are we talking about Hungarian oak? Are we talking about Quercus pyrenica, which is a bit of a red oak-ish kind of thing as well? So you see that hunger from the consumer side of things, and then by catering to them, I believe it's a very, very good thing. Now, the next step for me would be seasoning them with Oloroso or whatever. Back to the Louise's question, there's a French oak Oloroso seasoned whiskey that I tried, can't remember where, and it was delicious. Now, is it going to be commercially viable and so on? Sorry.
Is that part of the going back to that romanticism, and that we're kind of losing a little bit of that because consumer wants, and not only wants, but can access so much information, with the wonders of the internet and getting to speak to people like yourself live online and things like that. So much information is available. And if something is told that it's maybe a fact or enough of a fact that it's going against what that consumer always believes, say the sherry cask, it was always in great sherry casks and it's now not so good, and that's why the whiskey's not so good, whatever. And they research that and they say, oh, well, it's transport casks now, or it's seasoned casks now. That's why it's not so good. So there's that little pushback against what they believed through marketing, and now we're finding out fact. And because there's a clash, there's that pushback to say, well, that's not how it used to be. Certainly, probably the older generation who always just believed that it was sherry casks, bodega casks, Solera casks, whatever. And now they've found out facts that's not.
I think there's a bit of a mix of things, and this is a very delicate point because it touches upon the dangers of the sherry cask industry, because there's a bunch of people who want to make a quick pound, dollar, buck, however you want to call it, and then they will resort to subpar transparency to cater some distilleries. Then there's the bulk order. I mean, there's an increasing amount of distilleries, or there was, and there still is, looking for that sherry cask. And there's only so many, time, 12 to 18 month seasoning takes 12 to 18 months. And there's only so many casks you can offer. But if the demand keeps increasing, things might get a little bit blurry. And I'm not saying anything other than that. The other side of it is some bad. I mean, what is a bad sherry cask? That's potentially the way to start with a question. What is a bad sherry cask? A cask that has gone bad, you usually inspect them upon reception. So it's maybe something that has not evolved well. Okay, can you not use it for blending because or is it just one of 10? So I think it depends on the excuse me, on the context and who is saying what. A sherry cask that has gone bad is a little bit of it elicits a number of questions on my end, and requires a number of details before I can say, well, I can speculate even and say, okay, maybe this happened, or maybe that happened, or maybe the other thing happened. With the level of knowledge and quality control that we have nowadays, and the tasting panels or quality assurance that we have, it feels strange to see whoever bottling a sherry cask that is bad, admittedly. Mm-hmm. Maybe it's just a blending thing. I'm not saying that there's no bad sherry cask. I'm saying that let's step a little bit and then let's look at the whole picture. There is a bunch of steps to go through. I mean, it's not Granny looking at cask and going, "Oh well, this will do." It's a very serious, professionalized process. So getting to that point of it makes me ask questions. Maybe the blender was not having a bad day. Maybe the panel was having, I don't know, but
I think you can what you're speaking about there likens it to our conversation we had with Peter Allison, who's a blender for Woven a wee time ago, and how blends are often looked at as inferior. And he was telling us, he was talking to the guys who do the blends for Bell's, and every cask for Bell's blend goes through 1,000 taste checks. So the quality is there. The practice to make sure the quality is there. I think it's the end perception, or maybe a bit of marketing there, that that makes the consumer's mind up before they've even given it a chance. I think that's what the difference is. It's a perception rather than an actual quality issue.
It also it's that the number of variables. One of the reasons why I love whiskey is because of how complex it is in every single dimension. Production, very complex, many variables. You can play with a bunch of different variables, from the type of barley, the yeast, the fermentation times, everything, gravity of the wort, and anything you can think of. Great. Out of those variables, once you get to racking, you also get a number of variables when it comes to producing the whiskey. And that is something that kind of makes me be very, I don't want to say skeptical, but critical when it comes to looking at a cask or a whiskey that has been in contact with any cask or sherry cask, because that was the question. And somebody says, oh, this is not a good sherry cask. It can be the spirit that doesn't match the character of the Oloroso or the sherry cask. It can be the way that it has aged. It's the whole plethora of variables that we have in front of us when making whiskey, that maybe it was delicious at 56% ABV and they decided to bottle it to 46. Something as simple as that, different flavor profile, it changes. I try to be cautious.
There's not one reason. I think is maybe so many.
No.
From
something as stupid. There's something that is very silly, but it may happen, which is a bodega still putting sulfur in the cask pre-shipping. Because that's how things are done over there. and maybe they go on autopilot and they put sulfur. What do? Do you ship them back once you open them? What do you do? It depends on the distillery. Again, not saying anything beyond that. You don't know. There's a lot of there's many of different things that can be going on.
Yeah, Balvenie, I think, have a dog who's trained to sniff out sulfur in a cask.
That's amazing. I didn't know that.
They go around the
What's
cask.
the dog's name? Fino.
Satan.
Fino. That's a great name for a dog.
Fino would be an awesome name for a dog.
Yeah. I want to have another dog. I wonder if Tony would let me name our daughter Fino. That's nice. Probably not. Maybe not for better for a dog than a child.
Yeah, or a cat. A cat called Fino would be quite nice as well. Actually, I like that. There's been loads of questions piling in while you were chatting there. I think
so. Paul, I think it's the first one.
Yeah. I can't see it there. I'll let you read it.
So, if an Oloroso cask could put in season outside Jerez still be called sherry cask? Well, it depends on where outside Jerez. Because now we have, the region for the sherry cask nomenclature and certification is not just Jerez, it's the Sherry Triangle, and now it's has expanded to 9 different regions of production and maturation and so on. If it's within that protected area, yes. But there's a number of conditions, because the sherry cask legislation is very strict and very clear. It has to be new wood. It has to be seasoned for 12 months minimum in a bodega in Jerez with sherry, appropriate for seasoning. So anything that happens out of that region, there's a Oloroso. I mean, not all Olorosos are sherries, but all, there's other regions that produce Oloroso. One of them is Cordoba. If you get a Oloroso cask from Montilla, it's not a sherry cask because it's completely different origin denomination. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah. So the barrel doesn't have to be made in Jerez, but the seasoning has to happen in Jerez, or the triangle, the sherry triangle.
Yeah, for all intents and purposes, it makes more sense to get it in a cooperage in Jerez or in the region, but it has to be new wood. and then seasoned for a minimum of 12 months. My take on that is just making sure that there's no, or that you reduce the amount of cowboys selling sherry casks. Because what is a sherry cask? I mean, a sherry cask is also a cask that has been used for sherry production. So you get an old butt, and the bodega says, "Oh, this is an old butt from such and such bodega," and here's a document saying that. That's fine. That is a sherry cask as well. But when it comes to barrique, 225 or a hogshead, it has to be certified, and a barrique usually has to do with wine production, like regular wine production, and it's a little bit more complicated to justify.
Yeah. What's the most common oak for sherry maturation or sherry seasoning?
American.
It is American.
American. Yeah. American oak. There was a time in which we would use anything in Spain because there was no regulation. Yeah, there's chestnut, there's Spanish oak, there's anything you can think of. Then there was a shortage of wood, and then we started buying from the US, and then we realized, the grain is easier, the tannins are lower, it's a little bit more manageable. Cost-wise, not such a big difference. Let's stick to American oak.
Quicker grow as well, isn't it? Yeah.
More efficient as well. It's kind of the yield is higher when it comes to cask per tree, so more or less it's the same thing. Now it's become a bit of a standard, so unless it's an old Solera, but very, very old one, I wouldn't expect anything other than American oak.
Yeah. So I
There's
think
some
that's
chestnut out there.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception as well in the whiskey industry, amongst consumers and professionals alike. I think as well, there's this stigma that sherry is European oak and bourbon is American oak, and we get a lot of different. I know there's a lot of difference in the flavor from the wood, but sometimes you're drinking a sherry cask and you're getting that vanillins or that sweeter notes. You think, why am I getting that from a sherry? Oh, it must be a finish. It must be a prematured in bourbon. But it is American oak, is that vanilla come through from America?
Could be, but remember that if it's a production cask, you saturate it with the wine, and you don't char it, you toast it. So the degradation of the cellulose and the wood compounds is not as heavy as with a char. And then the access to those compounds is not as easy. So it is a tricky bit. And I'm more inclined to say it's a double maturation than the whiskey extracting a bunch of vanillin from the Solera butt. Right. There's always exceptions. There's this whiskey that smells like cucumber and grass and things like that. So maybe we get an odd one, but on average, I would not be too inclined to expect absorption from a sherry butt. Okay. To the degree that you would go, there's a lot of vanilla. Touch of it, maybe. Yeah.
Perfect. No, that's really interesting. That's great. Can we jump back a little bit to PX Woodhouse's question?
Where were we?
Go on,
Ian
sorry.
asking about.
Pick up Ian.
Okay, just the PX Woodhouse asked a wee while ago was about the cask journey regarding casks sold to distilleries. He was wondering what the percentage of casks transported are whole compared to flat pack.
Oh, yeah. I would say I cannot give you a percentage because I'm not aware of what everybody does. I'm pretty sure that the big, super big guys reassemble. But if you have a sherry cask that you're paying at a premium and you have the beauty of the cask is the liquid inside, right? Wouldn't make much sense to disassemble it and moving staves unless you have liquid at home to season it or to refresh it. Every single order that I've covered has involved for, what's the word I'm looking for? Casking one piece. There's been no disassembling of anything, because it would be a bit of a disservice to the cask, because you are exposing the inside of the cask to the air to dry, and what you want is the cask to be as covered of that liquid as possible. So would be a little bit odd. With ex-bourbon, a little bit of a different story, much more volume. Makes sense. Also, depending on the size, the cooperages are not going to be very happy to have a sherry butt to rebuild, maybe one or two, but if they have a bunch of them. But again, for seasoning, is usually smaller format. I would say very low, but it depends on who's buying as well and what the capabilities are.
Right.
That's interesting, because I remember when I first started tour guiding, I was always taught, oh yeah, they get all flack packed and sent over to the coopers and they rebuild them all, and I was like, really, that doesn't seem very economical, but yeah, it kind of makes sense, to be honest. But
I guess
I think it's still
air is more expensive if it's a full. I always had the impression it was. If it's coming from Europe, it was whole. If it's coming from America, it's flat packed. Is the impression I had for a long time.
Yeah.
Could be nowadays the shipping costs are getting very, very close to each other. There's a difference, of course, but in my eyes, it's more about transit and protection of what's inside the cask. It is. At the end of the day, what you have inside an ex-bourbon cask is a spirit. What you have in a sherry cask is a wine. Still, 20%. Let's go crazy and let's go to the upper limit, which is 22%. It can still get contaminated. It can still get bacteria. It will get dry. It will not be in as great a shape as it should be for the price that you have paid for it. So it would make sense to protect it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's really interesting.
Yeah. We had Ian's question as well. Where's it gone?
About the packs.
Oh yeah, you found it. Well done. Yeah. Yes. Why it was banned.
Yeah. He's for those not on YouTube, probably won't see the comment up there. Ian Allen's asking, I've always wondered what the story was around the use of Paxaret and why it was banned.
We're not talking about a wine within the sherry denomination. And if you want to produce, it is very close. Let's say that one wine is very close to a PX. So if you have two things and one of them is very expensive to produce and costly, and the other one is not so much so because of production processes, then you're getting to a point in which is which, and easy money again, and a little bit of suboptimal transparency. I don't have in-depth detail on that. Ian, I will look into it, but it is something that there's still people who have access to pajarete, but it's kind of frowned upon because you can just paint the cask with it and get away with murder, if it makes any sense, and that's not good practice.
That's interesting. I mean, again, it's all that misinformation as well, isn't it? There's so much history around about the sherry industry that a lot of people just don't know about, which is why it's great to have you on, because you can just myth bust for us all night, which is not easy to stay in your podcast.
I mean, if you want Oloroso, find yourself a sex dungeon and you're sorted. That's
the bottom line of the session today.
Yeah,
I am looking at
Oloroso equals sex dungeon.
I know this is it. Usually it's me that says something outrageous that gets, printed on a t-shirt, but you definitely winning for tonight with that one. Definitely making me look at sherry in a completely different way.
That's good.
Yeah.
We've got Reb. Good evening, Reb, watching on YouTube. He's asking about the bodegas. He said that he heard some bodegas season their casks outside the triangle, but they have an office inside the triangle. Is that true?
I'm not aware of it, but it can happen provided that they do not have the sherry cask certification in it. It all depends on the regulations at the end of the day. If the bodega where the seasoning is authorized by the Consejo, that's it. Well, not the Consejo, the organism that takes care of the sherry cask integrity, which is called something else.
So is that kind of like the version of like the Scottish Whisky Association, like the sherry's got its own kind of group that kind of makes sure the regulations are all adhered to and protects it and things. So like, how often do they have to get involved? Are things mislabeled as sherry? I mean, like, like in Scotch whisky, like sometimes countries will take the piss and kind of, name it things that they're not meant to. And the Scotch Whisky Association goes over with a clipboard and a waggly finger and says, "No, stop that." So is it quite an active society in Spain? Is it quite often the case that things are just kind of misappropriated as sherry, or like people kind of push the rules a little bit, or is it not that common?
It's been a while since I last checked, but there was a bit of a brush with the US because of American sherry, a bit of a brush with Australia because of Australian sherry. And I think that South Africa was also involved in something like that. I'm not up to date with those, but it's a matter of, sherry is a protected term, and because it comes from a specific region, and that has to be the premise. You can call it generous wine or fortified wine, or come up with your own name. It's fine. But sherry is like, comparing it to champagne. Champagne comes from a very specific region. Yeah. Cognac comes from a very specific region. If it's not cognac, it's called a brandy. We're all happy. It's all good. It's still delicious. Or you can call it whatever you call it in your country if you have your own appellation. But that is something that happens. The bodegas are pretty on point for most. The good thing is that some bodegas seem to have kind of divided the world for them, and some of them are very present in the US, some of them are very present in Asia, and kind of they look at competitors and kind of raise it up to the Consejo. Actually, with the sherry cask sherry wine, we have two organizations. One of them is the Consejo, the council, and the other one is the one taking care of the sherry cask certification, approved areas or bodegas for seasoning, etc., because it's a certification at the end of the day, and he has to follow some quality control.
Yeah.
There was a question from Jeremy Watt
about old sherry and young sherry, or old. Yeah. Let's bring that up. Let's go back a week.
That's for you guys, I think.
Comments have been flying in. It's been awesome. Do you think there's a real thing with modern and old style sherry whiskey? If so, what is the main reason? Do newer ones have more wood influence in general? It's a tricky one, because in terms of style, you're thinking, from, because obviously we kind of said the late 80s, maybe early 90s, that sherry transport casks stopped being used, and it was seasoned casks we were getting. And I guess the main difference between both styles of cask is that the transportation cask we're using was drinking sherry, whereas the seasoning cask sherry is to a specification to influence the wood, and is by design almost. So old school sherry casks weren't by design; it was for drinking sherry. So what we were getting there was a little bit more natural, a little bit finger in the wind, and probably great flavors, but maybe a bit more natural, a little bit less predictable, whereas now we're ordering to a recipe with this seasoned sherry cask.
The transportation casks I mean, there's not a clear line when they stopped and they started, and when bodega casks started being moved, because we have examples such as Gonzalez Baez with Dalmore, and they were exchanging butts and 150 years ago and so on, and that there's ledgers to prove that, so it's not fluff in the wind. The drinking sherry versus seasoning, it's all for drinking. Like, we cannot season anything that is not food grade material if food stuff is going to go in there. So that is another thing that is worth discussing, and I'm very glad you brought it up, because sherry is sherry, wine is wine. The only thing is that, and this brings another point of contention that has to do with the liquid that goes to seasoning. I mentioned earlier on that very old sherries, particularly the oxidative ones, tend to have that nail polish, varnish quality. I love it in a sherry. I may not love it in a whiskey, because it's usually associated with defects. That same thing happens with beers. If you have nail polish in a beer, unless you know the guys producing it are funky, maybe they made a mistake. Do you want that in a widespread whiskey? Probably not. The consumer is not going to be, we can all geek out and try it, but do we want a bottle, and are we going to finish it? Maybe not. So what's the alternative? Younger.
I've got a fly trying to drink it, so
there you go.
It's good stuff.
That's how good it is. So what's the alternative? We go for younger Olorosos, for instance, 4, 5, 6 years old, 6-year-old Olorosos. And what's the problem? They're young. They don't have the oxidization right, or the right oxidization for being bottled, because they usually bottle them at 10, 12 years average, again, Solera systems and so on. So it's a little bit on the young side, a little bit on the thin side, a little bit, you would not drink it. But what that sherry does to the wood, and what that wood soaked with that sherry does to the whiskey, is what we like. So again, I want to believe that the discussion should revolve around, do we want good whiskey? If the answer is yes, find out where it comes from, but don't get snooty about, but this is seasoning sherry. Seasoning sherry is still sherry. The only thing is that it's a little bit younger, and the distilleries are to blame for that. Again, because they're the ones who picked that. And it's a matter of cost, it's a matter of volume, it's a matter of many variables that are very boring and production oriented, right? But
not to the guys at home. That's not boring to these guys.
Those variables are the ones that are going to define the whiskey that you're going to drink and you're going to love. And that is, but you want the very super duper, super old 40-year-old Oloroso in a 12-year-old whiskey for 100,000 bottles. You cannot have that. It's just not sustainable financially for anyone. So it's that balance of, do you want the funky stuff, or do you want a day-to-day whiskey that you can enjoy and be happy about? Again, there's no right answer, but it's that kind of, I want everything. When do I want it? I don't know, but I want it. And
it's such a cool subject. We're just scratching the surface here, I know, but it's so much fun to dig deep into it. Another great question coming from Paul. With the whiskies that are considered sherry bombs, I was trying to have one here. It's, we're talking really dark. It's not quite as dark as cola, but this color, how much of the color is influenced by the oak, or how much is influenced by the seasoning wine? Obviously, both have an influence, don't they? It depends where the wood's from, how long that sherry's been in there, what type of sherry it is, or whatever it is, bourbon or rum or whatever.
And how much sherry might be in the cask and soaked in the staves, and also there's something that, again, it's a boring thing. It's not romantic. Whiskey, we all know the angel share and so on. What does that do to the cask? The level goes down. And if there's no whiskey, what do we have? We have oxygen, right? We have air. So it's going to oxidize the whiskey, and that's going to darken it as well. So it's the wood, it's the oxidization of the whiskey, it's what's been in there, the level of toasting. There's a bunch of different variables. Some some casks arrive a little bit wetter than the others, or with more sherry sloshing about. It depends. I would say taste it, and you will get a closer sense of what's the reason behind it. If it's very, very sickly sweet and it's a PX cask, you probably know what's going on. If it's very tannic, it might be that there's a little bit too much wood from a seasoned cask. Because again, we need to look at where it comes from. Sherry buds are usually not going to. I mean, we're also, again, I'm interrupting myself. Sorry, but it all depends on the length of time we're talking about. Did we say finished or doesn't matter?
I don't think it's not about the finish. It just is there. Yeah.
So it can be a bunch of things. Again, there's many variables. How long is that whiskey in contact with the wood? What did it have? What kind of toast level did it have? Is it old wood? Is it seasoned wood? Is it first fill or second fill? What's going on? But yeah, try it. You will get a better sense for it.
It's the beauty of nature, isn't it? We just don't know what's going to come out.
I know, it's like, I always think like whiskey production is like 70% science and 30% magic, because sometimes even though you're doing the same science every day, you open a cask, you're like, whoa, was not expecting that. Like, yeah, because we were at Loch Nagar today, and looked at the guy that described this kind of big sherry monster. I was like, this does not sound like my sort of whiskey. And then he took the bottle out, and it was just such a light color, and like I'm always trying to reprogram my brain, because like I think I've tried like one really sweet like PX finish and it's put me off, and like I'm always trying to try and not let that influence me before I try anything else sherry based. So like I looked at the bottle and I thought, if I'd seen that before I heard the description, like I would have been like, oh, this is maybe a bit more of me. So it's like a lot of it is still psychology as well, because people were just programmed to think the darkest whiskey must be the best whiskey. And we heard it at your tasting the other night, Mike, with the Woodrose guys. A couple of the folk who were well, I like that one. It's really, really dark. It's like, okay, but what does it taste like?
Have you tried it yet? Have you tasted it yet? Yeah, we're and everyone who says that they're not influenced by whiskey is a liar, because we can't help it. I think there is that, unless you're drinking every whiskey blind, there is an intrigue about darker whiskey, and it does catch your eye. But there's also there's an intrigue about lighter whiskey. I'm not just saying we're influenced by dark. You pick up something that's like almost like a wine. You see that and you think, why? That's 15 years old. Why is it so light? I'm always drawn to pick it up and think, I want to know the cask story that's produced a 15-year-old really, really light color. Vice versa, you look at something that's really dark. I love that we're on this, because I'm just away to have my first whiskey of the night, and I couldn't not have it.
On that, I'm actually just going to go and get a glass and turn another light on, because I actually look either dead or blue.
You look a bit blue tonight, yeah.
I don't know why. It's like, I don't know, if a red light's for like a harlot, a blue light's like for a, I don't know, the opposite of that. A non-harlot. None. I'll be back before.
No. So while Kat goes and gets a glass, this is. So I'm not sure if the camera's going to show this. I am being very much on brand. The Blether is not normally a brand push, but tonight I'm being shameless. Foghouse and shop release. This is a fair care. This is celebrating our 10th anniversary of Inverurie Whiskey Shop this year. So I thought I would bring this one along. It's a first fill sherry hoggy. from Fettercairn, and I thought it would just be a nice filler for the evening. We have been sending this out. It's been released for about a week now, so hopefully some of the guys at home have got theirs. And I just love that.
That's a nice sound.
It's such a good. We'll have to get a sample of this over to you. Maybe when you're back. You're back in the autumn. Is it end of autumn, October?
Yeah, October.
The Dramathon, yeah.
Yeah.
So we'll have to catch up.
We need to see if we organise something to derail my half marathon.
So Frank has got one of these all the way over in the Netherlands. So he's going to join me with our Fettercairn. So let me know your thoughts. Frank, notoriously a bourbon cask fan, not a big sherry. What do you think of the term sherry bomb or sherry monster? Are you a fan of it?
It's a way to describe things. I'm, again, in my own way, sherry bombs. I mean, we were talking about the colors and so on, and I'm in the past couple of years, I've been growing very fond of third fill casks, third fill ex bourbon. Like I want to try whiskies that look like chamomile tea and see what's behind the distillation and blah blah blah. The sherry bomb side of things kind of makes me feel that we're just going for excess's sake, and sometimes I feel that some whiskies are great like that because you can still get some whiskey behind the sherry, but sometimes it's just boom in your face sherry, and you're just drinking a 46% ABV Oloroso, which seems to be popular, but I'm more interested in the balance of things and how to work out a cask versus the spirit and so on. Again, we all want an easy night. There's a bunch of lovely sherry bombs out there that for a dram with friends and so on is going to be perfect. I think everything has an occasion, so not fully against it, but it's the whole, well, is this what you're going for because of what,
Yeah. If it's right, if it describes it right, but I think so many people are hung up on a sherry. The way that we kind of perceive and look at social media, somebody puts up a picture of a whiskey that is that really dark cola, as we've kind of Paul's maybe alluded to earlier on, that's going to be a sherry bomb, and the first half dozen comments on that post of whoever's pictures, oh, look at that colour, what a colour, look how dark it is. And you have to scroll down quite far to find out the first time somebody asks, great colour, but what does it taste like? How good is it actually? And it's back to the whole colour thing. I think for me, a sherry
I was guilty.
More of a look and appearance rather than a flavour.
Yeah, I was guilty of that, and I have Ian Allen to blame for it because I tried.
Can't blame that man for anything. He's the nicest man in the world.
Oh no, I can. He's very nice, but I can blame him for that because it's his whiskey as well. I tried the Glenmurray Peated Rioja cask, and the color was fantastic, like red tinge, beautiful. Made me want to try it. You try to separate yourself from the visual cue, but you can't help yourself. It was a beautiful color. Now, the darker the better. That's when we may or may not have an agreement there, because it doesn't mean anything. Scott mentioned earlier on, there's a bunch of very nice whiskies that are sweet and delicate and wonderful, and they're not necessarily pitch black. But yeah.
The last time I saw Ian Allen, he was wearing a pink elephant hat at the Speyside Whiskey Festival.
Oh no, I missed that.
Yeah, he was doing like the Half and Half event at the Downs Hotel. Mr. McKendrick was there also, and Ian pretty much won the crowd as soon as he donned that hat. I think he really knew what he was doing because he was like, "Yeah, he's got my vote." The beer that he's just given me is pink and Belgian, and I hate it. But he's wearing an elephant on his head, so like give me a trunk and I'm sold. So yeah.
Yep.
I bet he's so glad that you brought that up.
I bet he is, yeah. I think his was the best combination, actually. I can't remember who won. Who did win? Paul can help me out with that one, but he, yeah, his combination was the best one. It was a fun event. I imagine he just wears that to all his tastings, to be honest.
He should. He should.
He should.
He should, absolutely. He didn't wear it to the one at the shop, so I'm guessing he doesn't wear it to everyone.
Yeah, maybe we should all... Cat's looking pink now. Seriously, I've gone through the full color spectrum. I've gone from blue to pink. Oh my god,
that's true. Look at
maybe I'd probably just.
Is it the trunk?
It could be the trunk. It's all about.
Do you have an elephant above you? A pink elephant above you or something?
I do actually. Yeah, he's my imaginary friend. Always going to wear it now. You should. It was such a look. If anybody can get away with a elephant hat, it's you. It was quite the look. Mike, we need to get you an animal themed hat for your Foghouse opening night.
I mean, I've kind of got my hat style down, I think.
You are nailing a style, to be honest. It's
got to be flat and dull, I guess.
Nice. Rocking it.
Rick, I don't know if he's talking to you or me, Kat, but he says the hair colour is staying the same.
Well, that's good because I pay a lot to get it maintained like that.
Ungrade.
Yes, pretty much. If any of you guys watching are electricians, could you mind just popping around and sorting this nonsense out, please? Thank you. Just need some... Maybe I need a dimmer switch. Oh, they were so retro. Let's get dimmer switches back. Where did they go? Netflix and dinner and a dimmer switch. That's a night in, isn't it?
Netflix and a dimmer switch.
Aren't you all glad I came back?
And Sparky knocking on your door.
With a dimmer switch. That sounds like the start of a certain type of film.
And a bottle of Oloroso.
Yum.
you know what that means now. That's
yeah. Just turn that dimmer switch down. I'm bringing out the Oloroso.
Is that what it means when somebody turns up in your cruise ship and knocks on the door with a bottle of Oloroso? I just thought there'd be.
It will mean it will now.
Definitely.
From now on.
Put your keys in the bowl and put your Oloroso on the table. That sounds like the start of some night. In honour of Callum, if he's still watching, I decided to not try and get into the Crag and Mortar because if they never open it, I might be able to sell that and make a fortune. So I want Glenfarne Cliffs. There we go.
Hey.
Nice.
Yay.
Such a good whiskey. Louise has come up with a whiskey-related question, so let's get us back on track. Desert Island Dram, Diego. What would be your Desert Island Dram?
Good question, Louise.
Oof. I don't know, to be honest, because I understand we're going to be hot, so I'll probably not go for a sherry cask whiskey. Balvenie 12 double cask.
What a solid choice. Yeah. I like that. It's quite a humble dram, isn't it? That most people would think of something a single cask or the favourite whatever, but something nice and easy.
The easy answer would have been the 14 Caribbean cask, because desert island, but it would have been a little bit too heavy for me. If it's in the heat and so on, we'll go for something a little bit easier and lighter. And
I like how practical your answer was. You actually just considered, that'd be hot. I'm going to consider my answer around about the heat, not like
I want to enjoy my whiskey. I mean, if it's going to be hot around and we're going to be sweating under a palm tree or whatever, I might as well get a not too heavy whiskey.
That's true, actually. What would yours be, Mike?
I don't know. Diego's put a whole new spin on the concept of a desert island dram for me now. Normally, when I get asked that question, I go back to a second time I mentioned them tonight, Morrison Mackay. They released one of their black celebration of the casks, and it was a Colila from 1988, and it just tasted like the world's most expensive fruit pastel. It was so juicy and outstanding. But maybe I'm thinking of what was probably my standout dram instead of a desert island dram. Maybe something like something sweet and fruity like an Aberfeldy or maybe a Glengrant or something like that. That's just got a nice tropical fruitiness about it. Maybe.
Yeah.
And 40%, so you could drink more because you've got nothing else to do. You drink a cask strength, you're going to die pretty soon if it's all you're drinking. So let's extend that a little bit with a nice 40%er.
Just enough
Get
time
a nice buzz going.
Yeah.
Get a nice buzz before we dehydrate and die. Let's keep it easy.
Just before you go slightly mad and start talking to a coconut, just keeping it. Love it.
Yeah. How about yourself, Kat?
I was thinking along to the tropical vibes and this is so boring and so like on brand, but
Don't say Glengarry.
No, I was going to say Bamore 12 just because it's like my comfort jam. I love it. I just love Bamore so much. So I think I'll just sit there, Well, I don't know. If I was stuck on a desert island, I really want to be toasting my company I work for to the bitter end, dying with it in my hand. It's quite sad. She died loving Suntory. I don't know. Am I that committed? Yes, I am. If anybody's watching from work, but maybe I should go off brand. I don't know.
Whiskey Dave is in from Isle of Skye. He said you should set up the keyword Alexa, keyword on Alexa to Oloroso, and make her dim the lights, play the music. Smooth. Yeah.
So do you remember when the other guy did the blether that we don't really talk about anymore? Hi Russell, if you're watching. But do you remember whenever he said Oloroso, it would come up on the auto
Hola Russell,
which I loved because it was just so on brand. But yeah.
That's funny. It depends what kind of mood you're thinking of, because we're all looking at Oloroso in a whole new light tonight. So if we set up Alexa to play that kind of sex dungeon music when we say Oloroso, that's that talks a different kind of mood.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what
it's not a smooth mood.
Yeah, it's not Barry White.
It's not Barry White.
I mean, we didn't know his personal life. We don't know.
Oh, love it. Willis Gill says his. We've got some suggestions. Black Art from Rick Johnson. He's fine with any release. Reb is saying Colila 12. Willis the Glencadam 10. Whiskey Dave is going for the Glendronach 15. So many good whiskies coming out here. Dave Ferguson wants to go back to casks. Don't be so boring, Dave. We're on a good roll here. Only joking, of course. What are the rules? What are the rules and regulations of importing casks to different countries? Just remembering where he worked and some wooden crates had to be treated. So do you have different rules when you're sending casks to America, I guess, than to the Caribbean or to the UK?
The regulations are pretty straightforward. You have to give a certification of origin depending on what we're talking about, and then for the most part you need to provide a phytosanitary certification. I know it's very, you see how I'm dealing with my straight face now, I can see things as well. So it depends on the country for the most part, but it's really boring customs paperwork. We need this document filled in. We need this and that. It's just a bunch of red tape. When it goes smoothly, it feels like you're walking on water, but hasn't happened many times lately. So it's been a nightmare. Flat out. Oh, Ian.
Yeah, I'm just sort of like, do we pick up on that? Does Ian have a song in mind for his sex dungeon?
If he has, if he's the one asking the question, I'm sure he has a tune in mind.
Wearing a pink hat, a pink elephant hat, because I've got like a whole scenario in my head now.
It's got to be the tune from Dumbo when he gets drunk.
Yeah.
Oh, I was scared of Dumbo. No, I was scared of Dumbo when I was a kid. I didn't watch it.
So for the guys watching on YouTube who probably won't see this comment, Ian Allen has asked, never mind the Desert Island Ram, what is your sex dungeon tune? So, Sex Bomb by Tom Jones is Honest to the Malts.
I think that's like a little bit too like pop. I think like the Sex Dungeon's maybe a bit more like dark and dirty vibes than...
Yeah, a little bit more Ozzy Osbourne than Tom Jones.
I don't think Ozzy Osbourne gives me sexy vibes. Like,
no, but Sharon does.
I mean, like,
but a sex dungeon is not sexy. Nothing's sexy in a sex dungeon.
Not really. No.
Nothing.
Nobody's going to get cuddle in there.
No, nobody. No, it's not about cuddles. Jeremy Watt, all by myself. Celine Dion. That says a lot about your Jeremy. If you're down there tying yourself into stocks and playing Celine Dion.
I hope you've got a very, very simple safe word, Jeremy. You're on your own.
Yeah, that would be some playlist. I don't know. I can't even think of any. I just yeah.
I think we're all worried now. If we say it, then it means we've thought of it, and it might just give too much away. Maybe what we'll do at the new Foghouse is we'll do a theme night. We'll get Louise to run it. We can do a dungeon dram theme.
Like a sex dungeon night. I mean,
no, we'll advertise it as a sex dungeon theme. But
okay. Nice. Well, that's something to pop in the diary, folks.
Yeah, something. Sometimes we shouldn't think out loud.
Yeah. Good question, though. That's probably the first time we've been asked that on Tainted Love. Yes, that's a good shout. Yeah. I don't think there's much love involved in a sex dungeon either, though. Yeah. We'll have to work on that one. We'll put it on our stories.
Yeah. How about head, shoulders, knees, and toes? Something to lighten the mood.
I mean, that's probably more just instructions than actual.
Get a tune stuck in your head. Yes, Jeremy, we'd have to invite the sexy onion along.
Well, it was an erotic onion, but yes, it would very much be part of the
theme.
The day.
I think Rick mentioned earlier on that it's the first time a sex dungeon has been mentioned on the Blether, and I was surprised to be surprised by that. I think he's right. But not only has it been mentioned, it's been mentioned multiple times.
The theme for the night.
I do like with Dave Fackerson's comment. His Desert Island Ram is the Everyday Whiskey Shop Fetter Care. So
nice.
We've nailed it. It is a great. I mean, it's Gordon MacPhail, so it's going to be good. We all know it's the quality is going to be there.
Yeah. And that's such a gorgeous distillery as well. Like, just so quirky, and the visitor centre is beautiful. I love it. Yeah. And you don't see a lot of Fetter Cairn released like independently, or not in big volumes anyway. Like, I haven't seen much of it anyway.
There was a flurry. It's pre-COVID, maybe 2018, 2019. I think distilleries go in cycles, and you know when they've sold parcels. You get a vibe. Because Glengarry had it. Was a 2010 Glengarry or 2008 Glengarrys were coming out quite regularly for a while, and Blair Athol just now or the last years had quite a lot coming out. So we see cycles of distilleries. Fetter Cairn had theirs a wee while ago, maybe 6 years ago, and it's kind of slowed down a little bit now, but it's it's one, and we've had this conversation before. It's not a distillery that I always like. I don't get into it. I think Diego's reading some of the comments here. So for me to pick a Fetter Cairn as a shop exclusive is it's a big step for me. I'm trying not to read the. Right,
do you know every week I get accused of being the one that descends the Blether into absolute chaos, but it's not. Look at these like naughty buggers just all discussing sex dungeon chats. Like, throw them a bone and they just run with it.
We've maybe uncovered an untapped market here.
Sex dungeons.
Oloroso.
Oloroso, yeah.
Oloroso. That's what I was getting at by the theme, was Oloroso casks.
I think if you're from Aberdeenshire, Oloroso just sounds really, really Scottish when you say it. Like, I can't make that sound Spanish at all. It's just, there's a lot of R's in there. It just comes out as just super Scottish. Not the way I say it. Not the way I say it. There's about 10 in there the way I say it.
There's literally more of every other letter than R.
Yeah, it just kind of rolls off the tongue, though. I did not bring up sex dungeons. Actually, Diego brought up sex dungeons, so like I'm not even taking responsibility for that.
I was talking about sherry. It was a metaphor.
It was.
I was talking about oxidization. Don't look at me. Don't look at me for answers. That's all on you guys. I'm an innocent bystander. I'm here to spread the good word of the sherry.
And you have done very much so, definitely.
I want to just jump back a wee bit, Diego. We had when you're talking about how you sometimes introduce yourself in tastings with a joke about you make a living smelling bungholes or sniffing bungholes. Rick had a great comment saying that would be fantastic on a business card. But I think what you've got on your business card is even better. Is it not like the manager of Spain or country manager or something like that is your title?
For SMWS, yes. I take care of SMWS in Spain. I didn't bring it up, not to bore people. But that's
we can talk SMWS. I just love it. Your title is manager of Spain, and if you hand that out to somebody, I'm like, manager of Spain. I was like, what, the whole country? This is great.
The best card, the best business card that I've seen is Paul Davidson's from Glenfarne. It says Emperor.
Amazing. That's it. That's just his title, Emperor.
Emperor.
I love it.
Mike, why didn't you put something like that on my business card for the Blether? Like,
I can't remember what I put. Is this Blether host or something?
I think so. Now that I'm divorced, I am thinking that I'd like to just entitle myself, because I do think I'd like to be like Lady Catherine, because I think like Catherine's quite a posh name anyway. So like if I just became Lady Catherine,
wasn't she beheaded by Henry VIII?
I'm kind of.
Well, one of them was like his original wife, Catherine of Aragon, lived, and he just beheaded the rest of them. Like, there's a lot of really good. What were you tempted to say? Like, you're definitely not a lady.
No. Your title would be Blether Dominatrix or something like that.
I love that. Yeah. Oh my God. Let's get that on a business card. It might either help the bookings or reduce them. I can't decide which one, but
I think our guests would be more wary, or our following would spike.
I
think there would be a shift in the demographic.
Yeah.
A dramatic shift.
Everyone's heard the story about how I changed from my Instagram to the Distillery Cat, because I thought that's what Mike called me, but he actually just called me the Distillery Tart. So, maybe I just need a rebrand again. The Blether Dominatrix. I love it. We'll just do like sort of black latex type business card. I'm here for it.
So Big Pour has said, hold on a minute, Kat. You want an electrician to come round with a bottle of Oloroso and fiddle with your dimmers?
Yes, that's exactly what I want. Are you offering? If we can make that happen, then let's do that. I need to do something. My lighting's awful. It's ridiculous. But I mean, like Mariah Carey actually pays somebody to walk around with lighting for her. So maybe I do just need to like get an alter ego and just become a little bit more Mariah Carey. But yeah.
That is a
There you go.
tight work.
Which one are we on now, Mike? Like that's
It
quite a
was-
lineup for your developing behind you there.
Quite a lineup.
Well, like are these all the bottles you've tried? Like in that row of bottles
No,
there, is
no.
that all your sherries?
Not just tonight.
All right.
I've only had the Pando and the De Thomas. That's the only two I've had tonight.
Well, that's cool. So we've got a new small batch coming into the distillery, and it's a big first fill Oloroso matured small batch release. I want to put like a sherry flight together. So like I downloaded that. Do you remember Antea was doing? Was it the European Parliament? It was like a free course or something for learning about sherry. So like the history of it and like what it is. It's really good. So I started it last night. With the idea of learning more about sherry so I could talk about it properly. But it'd be interesting to hear a lot from you, Diego, as well, because there's just like so much I didn't know about it as well. So no, it's really cool to find out a lot. Because I know Mike's such a fan of sherry. You talk about it a lot. And then Annie Manson out in Spain, she does like what does she do? It's like a cookery
and sherry. Do you know Annie? I think I spoke to you about her in the shop, Annie Manson.
Yeah, I don't know her personally.
We'll have to put you in touch. So she is a descendant of the founders of Glengarry and moved over to, I think she went on holiday, fell in love and stayed, I think is the crux of her move out. She stays in Seville and she runs food courses, but is an absolute sherry nut as well. She loves the process and has great connections with the bodegas and takes people out on tours and stuff. I think you really hit it off with her as well. So I'll make sure after this that we put you in touch.
Yeah, absolutely. We need sherry nuts because it's not a lot of them.
Hopefully we've created some tonight from watching the chat as well. I'm sure definitely be a few more. Looking into different ones, I think potentially I'm going to go and find some Fino. I'm going to go to the Invery whiskey shop and find some Fino to try.
Yeah, it's just so good. Pando.
That's a solid choice.
Yeah, you're nodding in agreement. Williams Humbert as the. So guys, if you want to try a Fino sherry, not your. I'd say not your classic, but it is a classic sherry, isn't it? The Fino is kind of.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
Did you say you had that? Oh, sorry. I was going to say, did you say that you had that in the fridge, though? Is that how you'd usually like, or is it just because it's summertime? Like, that's how you prefer it?
I would always drink it cold.
Yeah. Is that like sort of like the better way to drink it, or does it matter, or does it affect it? Because, like, yeah.
Fino and Manzanilla are designed to be served like a white wine, not frozen, because that means you're drinking pish, and you don't want that. Because anything that says in the bottle "drink extremely cold" means do not try it in normal conditions. Please don't do that to yourself. So Fino and Manzanilla tend to be. I mean, I would go for 10 to 12 degrees, and then depending on the complexity and the aging, because there's different agings for the Fino and the Manzanilla, you can let it cool off a little bit and kind of warm up, get some temperature, and start opening up and so on. If you know it, there's the old side of Fino and Manzanilla, which gets that kind of tinge of butter and yeast and a little bit of roasted almond and so on. That I would treat more like a red wine at like 14, 16, 18 degrees, just a touch, because you're talking about a complex, delicate wine that doesn't need masking. Play with it, but it's and also use a proper wine glass. Use whatever you can, but if you go for the full Monty, you have a proper sherry that is either very old for the category or complex because it's an average 20-year-old. I would use a wine glass instead of the snifters or the Glencairns and so on. For lack of, if you're going to go for a tumbler, go for a Glencairn. But if you have a wine glass, just let that wine breathe and oxygenate and just talk to you.
That's cool. That's really interesting to know, because you see all these little sherry glasses and stuff, but I kind of associate those with my great aunt had the little set of sherry glasses and the bottle of as we were saying at the very start, the sort of sweet Bristol cream sherry. But yeah, if you're saying pop in a wine glass, and I've got plenty of wine glasses, so I can definitely be doing that. But yeah, I'm going to give that a go actually.
So, for instance, Williams and Humbert, I know them well, they're good friends. They have a 20-year-old Palo Cortado called Dos Cortados, right? I think it's 20 or 22% ABV. It's a big hitter, and it's on average 20 years old. It's a very complex wine, super interesting. You want it to expand and be as much as the wine can be. So if you confine it in a smaller vessel, it's not going to be as interesting. Do it the same thing that you would do with a whiskey. Try different glasses, try and experiment. There's no, now I'm going to say something that is going to potentially blow your minds or not, but Fino is always or very widely consumed in southern Spain, mixed with 7-Up.
Oh wow!
Wow, yeah.
You get your regular, standard Fino, and you just mix it because in Seville it's hot, and it starts being hot really early. They have ballpark 6 months of proper heat, and I'm talking mid-30s a year. So you want to drink something refreshing and easygoing and not just drop. So you kind of dilute that Fino. It's crisp and easy. You add a little bit of sugar because they like sweet stuff in down south. They have a bit of a sweet tooth. It kind of makes it a little bit easier. Sometimes they chug a kind of a jug full of ice cubes, bottle of Fino, some 7-Up to top it up. Off you go to the races. It's easy. It's refreshing. Are you going to debate about the future of the world and global warming and whatever crisis? No, you're going to just have fun and drink 2,500 of those.
You're not going to debate it. You're going to solve it.
Yeah, you're going to solve it after the 20th of those. You're just going to be like, this is what you should do. But that's that's a little bit what I recommend. I say play around. It's like whiskey. There's no, there's a difference between having a conversation with a whiskey and the difference between that and just drinking it. You're drinking however you want it, but you decide what to do with it after you have a chat with a whiskey and say, all right, you will work well with Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Or neat, or with water, or
however
that's the thing as well, because sherry's not expensive to buy, so you can just play around with it, I guess, and not be like, oh, I don't want to waste I've just spent however much on a bottle. I don't want to drink it wrong or do it. It's so affordable.
What I love is guys are doing the half bottles as well. You don't have to buy a full 70. The Pando's one I always buy a full 70 of because I go through that quite well. PX probably not. I would go for a smaller, either a 50 or a 35, purely because don't drink it as much because it's a sweet. It's an end of night, one maybe. And sometimes I do unashamedly, if there's a whiskey I don't think is sweet enough, a little bit of that to rinse the glass and then put the whiskey into it. People sometimes add something. Seasoning the glasses instead of seasoning the cask or something like that. It's quite fun to do.
Like Richard Patterson, just pouring the sherry in and chucking it out over your shoulder.
Yeah, but I wouldn't put enough in that warranted having to throw it out. It's almost like you remember back in the day when you have a long vodka, the bitters, and you rinse the glass with it, something like that.
Classic.
Yeah, it just adds a little bit of. It's not even a case of making it more sweet. It's just fresh sweetness to the glass, and it just brings out some really cool flavors in the whiskey, as opposed to water.
Yeah, you can do the same thing with Oloroso as well. With say ex-bourbon cask standard, or second, third fill, add a little we drop, boom, you kind of change things. It's all about playing around.
Whiskey David said that he stocks Port Elise sherry at his work. So Whiskey Dave is a shop in Isle of Skye. And I think is your Torre Vega out yet, Dave? Let us know, because I think they were on the verge of bottling an Oloroso sherry cask finish Torre Vega, which would be pretty. It sounds pretty.
Sounds like fun.
Yeah. He's never drunk it on its own yet, so that makes me think you've drunk it as part of either a concoction or as a cocktail or something. So let us know what you're drinking with it. Red Mordecai, I'm going to jump back on because he has been quite active on the chat, and I feel that some of the times he's commented, we've missed it. Reb is kosher. Sticks to kosher diet, and he was talking about a couple of casks or a couple of whiskies that he's had from Israel. So his only experience, I'll pop it back up here, with sherry bombs at a kosher Eminate Apex first fill. Assuming they're similar, do you find that is that a growing industry, or is that a growing kind of demand for these kosher casks? Is that something you deal with?
I don't deal with it. I'm aware of it because I know the guys of Milk and Honey, and I've discussed that element of kosher casks. And actually, I have a book about sherry from the kosher perspective, and it's incredibly complex. And I cannot understand anything that I read in that book. The liquid itself would be very close to the normal stuff, for lack of a better word, non-kosher Adam. It's just the process. Maybe I haven't tried kosher PX and non-kosher PX, but I questioned, given the intensity of the wine and the production process, that it would be very different. I want to believe that Gonzalez Baez did kosher Tio Pepe, which is their Fino, back in the day. But I don't know if it's readily available or just a one-off thing. It is a bit of a process, and Reb is probably most likely way more knowledgeable than me on the requirements. But yeah, it is kind of got the gist of it, and I thought, geez, just for a cask to put whiskey in it, that's a lot of work, and that's a lot of commitment, and hats off. I didn't have a chance to try the liquid, unfortunately. The Milk and Honey's liquid, yes, but not the PX, the Oloroso that were used. Delicious stuff, by the way.
Superb. The kosher Fino Tio Pepe is available, Reb said on the chat.
Wonderful. Yeah. Tio Pepe is always good news.
Yeah. Annie Manson's another one who raves about Tio Pepe. And I always, and again, this is just that uneducated side of me that probably I would like to think exists in everyone. You see it in a supermarket, you think, oh, it's not going to be great. I'm going to go for something that I can only find in a shop, like a specialist shop, and that's going to be so much better. But she raves about Tio Pepe, and you've just kind of backed that up there, saying it's always good news.
It's a super consistent Fino. It is, again, for the volume that they produce consistently, it is amazing what they do. You may like it more or less. There's Pando v Tio Pepe. When when I did my tasting last time in Speyside at the Highlander, there was a lady who was covering for a friend of hers in my tasting because her friend was at the hairdresser's, and she looked at me and went, "I don't like sherry. I'm just covering for a friend." I'm like, "Sure, no problem." And then at the end of the tasting,
this sounds a lot like that.
And
Sorry.
she ended up loving the Tio Pepe.
Mm.
She was completely obsessed with it. And I thought, there you go, our job's done. We've brought another one to the fold. She
Can I get an idea?
She had longer hair than you, Kat, so it wasn't you.
Is Tio Pepe kind of like the Glenfiddich or the Glenlivet variant? You know, it's something that is very, very good, very successful for a reason, to the point almost its detriment, where the snob in the industry kind of says, I'll ignore that because I can get it anywhere.
To a point, and the good thing, hey Billy, and the good thing is that the good thing is that to kind of change that, Antonio, who is the winemaker, decided to go like 14 years ago for an unfiltered version of Tio Pepe, which is called En Rama. So they only do particle filtration and they do not clarify or anything like that. And it's night and day. Yeah, there's a bit of a bump in the pricing. It's also available in the UK. And it's a delicious wine. And you can have them side by side. And you can tell that there's a completely different animal. And obviously, smaller batch, different casks, different butts, and so on. But it is a very different wine. Still called Tio Pepe and Rama. But it's a very, very interesting, for anyone who wants to see what the next step is, get the regular Tio Pepe and get the Tio Pepe and Rama, chill them, try them side by side, and then see what's up. And it will be fun.
Yeah. I'm definitely intrigued to try more. Mike, I think when you open up your new Foghouse wine whiskey bar, you need to do a sherry introduction night for everyone. Non-dungeon themed. I think we'll just stick with the sherry for the first foray
Get a
into
vibe
it.
first. Get a vibe for it first. See if there's requests.
And it would be fun, because I think you said, Diego, earlier, that you sometimes put a sherry matured whiskey in as well, just to show people. So you can almost do that, like kind of, show people the sherry, and then show people like, sort of the whiskey matured in that sherry, in the different. Because it would be an interesting lesson in getting over the whole color thing as well. Of like, this is all sherry, but they all come in a spectrum of different colors. But I would enjoy that. I think it'd be good to just do a sort of a proper deep dive into sherry and try a few. Yeah. At least that way, if you're doing it at tasting, you're not buying loads of bottles to take home and be like, oh, well, I didn't actually like that one, and now I'm stuck with a bottle that I don't use. So it's like, a good way of finding out which ones you liked.
100%.
Also, in a sherry tasting, if you and taking Glenfiddich, if you get a 12 and you pour a little bit of Oloroso on it, you see what the 15 is going to be like a little bit.
Yeah, that's true.
Obviously, complexity, Solera system, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. But it's that element of, it's the same liquid, it's the same distillery character. Boom, let's top it up a little bit. Let's not go crazy, but it is something that can be played with. And at the end of the day, if the idea is to learn the influence of the sherry cask and or the sherry, it's a good way. Again, more variables than just the wine, because
sure.
I can't remember the name of the guy. He was master of wood for Macallan. Can't remember the name. But in one interview,
recently. Like Max McFarlane?
No, the last one, not the one who retired.
Is it Max McFarlane?
No, it doesn't ring a bell. McPherson? Stuart McPherson, probably.
Stuart McPherson, rings a bell.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was him. He was talking about the heat treatment for seasoned casks, because again, toast levels are going to influence tannic access and degradation of cellulose and hemicellulose and blah 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 blah, boring stuff. So that is an element to bear in mind when it comes to playing around with liquid, but it's the closest we can get. Either that or we get a small cask, 5-liter cask, and we play around with it.
No, that's cool. There's so much questions in chat coming. I think Billy's asked you a couple. Oh no, I think did Billy mention that you guys might be doing a
tasting together?
A tasting together.
Yeah, we're looking into it, hoping to get the okay from higher powers and so on. But if everything works well, we will be doing a tasting at Whisky Show, London. That's
good. It's interesting that Billy is on and that you guys are doing a show together, because Billy's our guest next week. So
it's nice.
Yes. I'd love to say that this was all perfectly planned, because I'm so streamlined with my diary. I'm just like segue into next guest, but completely by accident this has happened. But yeah, it's nice little surprise.
So we did a tasting for Sherry Week last year, and he brought a pretty good lineup of sherry, and we kind of geeked out because we got some samples of whiskey here and there, and it was good fun. It was good fun. I recall a magnum of Tio Pepe and Rama, Billy.
Yeah, I think Reg saying that Stuart McPherson. Oh yeah, he's agreeing with you there.
Yeah, that's Stuart McPherson.
Billy's procrastinating. I'm meant to be revising for an Armagnac exam tomorrow morning. Billy, seriously, I love your dedication to the Blether, but yes, get studying. I still have the empty Magnum at home.
He's too busy wooing at us. He's like, woo! Look at that. It's going to be so much fun next week, I think.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have you on, Billy. I'm reading your book. Mr. McKendrick let me borrow your book. I'm ashamed to say I didn't have it, so
Are you reading it in Billy's voice?
Well, I've never heard Billy.
Mark, I put a post up on the philosophy we're talking about Billy. I think we're talking about him with Mark. No, it was Louise was on, and we're talking about the philosophy of whiskey, and I put a photo up of his book, and Mark said, "You can't help reading Billy's book with Billy's voice," and it was so true. And I didn't realize I was doing it until Mark mentioned it, and I'm like, "That's exactly what I'm doing."
Well, I've never heard him speak, so I'm currently not doing it in his voice. But I might do after I've spoken to him next week. But yeah.
9 a.m. start for the exam in French time. Pray for Billy.
Oh, goodness me. Well,
I'm sure you don't need our best wishes, but we will send them to you.
Yeah, good luck with that. Let us know how it goes next week when we speak to you, whether you've got your certificate.
Yeah. What kind of qualification is it, Billy? Because are we going to be talking to Dr. Billy Abbott?
Master of Armagnac.
That's should go on a business card. That's awesome. Emperor of Armagnac. That would
be. Kaiser of Armagnac.
Yeah. I love it. I think we all just need to up our game of business cards, because we always bring this up, but is Dean Joad, he's something like Master of Flavor Creation or something.
Yeah. Master of creating drinks creator or whiskey creation or some flavor creation. Some kind of creative. Yeah. It is.
We just need to be a little. We just need to be less modest and just own what we're good at and just become emperor, like Emperor of Glengarry, Empress of Glengarry. I'm going to pop that on my business card. And Blether Dominatrix. I love it.
Okay. Empress by day, Dominatrix by night.
Right? I know, that's a lifestyle choice. I love it.
Still not manager of a country, though. That's
not manager of Spain, no.
That's up there.
I like how diverse it's been. A lot of proper full-on geekery with just a little wee nod to ridiculous in between. It's been a good mix of
Tangents.
yeah. I love it. I keep meaning, like, whenever I put something up on our socials, and I'm a bit behind that, guys, I'm really sorry, but I usually just try and like pinpoint one kind of silly moment of, like, so it'll be learn all about sherry and sex dungeons, like a bit of clickbait to get people in.
No, that's how we roll in Spain. It's pretty much all about that.
Sherry and sex dungeons. But I haven't booked my holiday yet, but guess where I'm going now?
You want a recommendation?
Yeah.
So when's the best time to visit Spain, Diego? End of September, was it you said?
What's the plan?
You wouldn't want to go to a sex dungeon when it's like 35 to 40 degrees Celsius. Imagine all that latex.
You do want that because there's probably going to be AC in them.
Yeah, I mean, you would just be like soup on the inside, though. There'd be a lot of sweat.
Is this why all your bodegas are kind of underground and cool?
Yeah, our bodegas. Yes.
Yeah,
bodegas.
yeah. Oloroso bodega. Oh, I really like that.
Exactly.
Tie me to it.
I was going to tell you a story but I probably shouldn't, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
So I'll probably not. Well, so when I was on the old apps.
How much persuasion that took.
Well, when I was single and using the apps, I got like a notification from Tinder, and it was like, "Oh, Mark likes you. Log into Tinder and check out Mark's profile." So I was like, "All right, I'm here for that." I clicked onto it, and like, it's always suspicious on Tinder if like the first picture is like a sort of live, love, life quote. You're like, right, you're hiding something. Second picture was like a landscape. Third picture was Mark, who was in full-on head-to-toe latex gimp suit and World War II gas mask. I'm like, Mark's got a vibe that I'm not sure I'm into, to be honest.
Mark seems to love Oloroso for some reason.
Mark's got Oloroso vibes.
You sure it was Mark and not Marcos, and it was Spanish? And
potentially. I mean, I didn't delve further into his page, so we'll never know. But I hope he's happy in life and found his soulmate.
He's found his soulmate. Reb is muting because he wants to talk about whiskey again.
It's not going to happen. We were talking about sherry in the first place, Reb. So like,
Mr. Malt was asking how the date with Mark went.
I didn't go on a date with Mark. Wasn't. I don't think he was looking for dates. I think it was something quite specific that he was looking for.
Diego, if you had to choose, I'm going to take Reb's advice. We're going to go back and just for the end. If you had to choose between sherry and whiskey, you could only pick one. What would you go for?
Both.
You just broke the rules there, but okay.
Break the rules. Fuck it. Nobody's telling me what to choose.
I don't have to. I don't have to give any of those up. So yeah, both.
Yeah.
I just don't have to, so I'm not going to. That's fine.
Love it.
I know it's your show, but no.
No, it's cool. Hey, it's as much your show as ours.
I'll probably drink more whiskey than sherry.
Mm-hmm.
It's a little bit more difficult to find the right time for that very spectacular Amontillado that is mind-blowing.
Wow.
I don't wake up and pour Fino in my cereal or anything like that. So it's a little bit of a whiskey is more part of my life because of the friendships that I have and the people that I interact with and so on than sherry.
Sure.
But then some of the best ones that I've ever had have been sherries. So it's a hard call. Probably given the fact that I, because of, if I factor in friendships, I would say I'll stick to whiskey.
Sure.
but I don't have to. So
yeah. I was going to say you don't have to. I know sherry does have its culture in Spain, and a similar culture to whiskey, where you buy a bottle, share it with friends. And is it more of a dining experience with sherry, or is it something that you go to the bar and casually drink? Or is it more, what is the drinking culture of sherry?
I think that we all have our own culture, but in my eyes, the way that I live sherry is we need food, because it's not one, it's 7 different sherries, and each sherry is going to be, each sherry type is going to have different nuances, and one of them is going to work really well with oysters, and the other one is going to work really well with sardines, and the other one, sherry is Amontillado, in fact, is one of the only wines, if not the only wine, that pairs nicely with artichokes.
Okay.
And that is the bane to wine's existence in the universe of wines, and Amontillado gets away with it. If anyone likes spicy food, I always say this, so apologies if Mike and Billy are around. Fino will remove whatever you have in your mouth because of the ABV and the acidity. So you can have fish and meat and vegetables and have a sip, and your palate will be cleansed. At the same time, if you're eating hot food like Mexican, Chinese, Indian, or anything that has to do with spice, if you drink Fino and you kind of chew it a little bit, the spice level is going to go down dramatically.
Wow.
Because of the cleansing capacity that it has. Don't do that with Amontillado, because it will increase the spice levels. So it will accentuate the heat in your mouth. So Fino for me is the universal wine. It's much like with blood types; it works for pretty much anything. Then as you move right to the right, and I'm including Fino and Manzanilla being a little bit more delicate for the most part and saline. But if you move to the oxidative and hybrids, then you need to be a little bit more focused on what you're having. But if anyone likes game, Oloroso in a old Palo Cortado is going to work perfectly. Venison, 100%. Wild boar, 100%. Even red tuna, 100%. So it's a wine to eat. It's very social, much like whiskey. And depending on the wine as well, you're going to have your moments. Problem for me is, and then maybe it's a mental blockade that I have myself. I will not open a bottle of very old Palo Cortado for myself. I will open it to share with someone and have a chat and discuss. And that doesn't happen as often as it happens with a bottle of whiskey.
Sure.
Because of the background understanding. And I'm not talking about getting snobby about it. It's just getting a little bit geeky and saying, oh, you get this, you get that. They've done this. Some bodegas work with very specific areas, like pagos, like they focus on the terroir in a very, very, very intense way, and you can tell, you can taste it without getting snobby or anything like that. So that discussion is always incredibly interesting. But and anything, you need people around that will be on par with you, so you get to the same point. Otherwise, it's that element of either you not understanding what they're saying, or you feeling that you're being a bit of a dick and you're just being the snobby at the table. And there's nothing like it in whiskey or wine in my eyes. So there should not be anything like it in neither of those, because both of those liquids in my eyes are very popular. They're very folksy, and they have humble origins, and they have evolved, and they have been taken to incredibly high levels of quality and sophistication. But that doesn't, let's not forget where we come from. That's potentially the bottom line.
Yeah. We've said it before. It's such an amazing topic to talk about, and it's a warren that I think as whiskey drinkers in a whiskey community, we don't know enough about it. We kind of find out what we want to know to help us appreciate the whiskey, and then we stop. I think more and more whiskey drinkers should really get into the evolution and the variety and that whole rabbit hole of sherry. It's so cool, so much fun, and if it gets us over to Spain more, then all the better.
I mean, you're all more than welcome. The key challenge with sherry, it's a little bit like with whiskey. The learning curve is a little bit steep for beginners. So you get a bunch of acquired tastes. There's a number of times that people have taken Fino back to the bartender saying, "This wine has gone bad." No, dude, this is what you're ordering. But if you're expecting a crisp, fruity Chardonnay or whatever, and you get a Fino, then it's nothing to do with it's the disconnection between expectation and reality, and that is the problem and the challenge sometimes. If you're expecting something really sweet, let's go for the sherry bombs and the two kind of big options that we discussed earlier on, the very sweet and the very tannic ones. You look at that, you go, oh, it's super dark, and it's going to be syrupy and sweet and wonderful, and you get a punch of tannic bite in your mouth, in your face. It's just tannic. You will say that that's a disgusting whiskey because you're set for the sweetness. So it takes a little bit of, okay, leave the room, cry in a corner, and then come back and try the whiskey with a clean mind, because otherwise you will never like it.
What you're describing is how I try to describe single grain whiskey to people at the moment. And if you think single grain is a fantastic drink, and there's so much good stuff of it out just now, but if you're expecting something that tastes like a single malt, you're going to have that, that's not good, that's not what I expect. And I think where we are with single grain is people need to be educated that yes, it's whiskey, but it's a different whiskey. Expect something different. Open up your mind a little bit to this, and you'll realize you're drinking something that's fantastic.
I love a single grain. I'm such a big fan of single grains. Like, I can't remember. I think it was in a whiskey. I can't remember what event was it. It was in London, and I had Sam Simmons, and he gave me a 24-year-old Cambers or something like that. I just went, what is this, and where do I get more, and how can we keep this going? Single grain. I'm like, this is a biscuit. It's like
it's so good.
It's a high ABV biscuit, and I kind of got hooked on single grains since then.
And there's so much great grains coming out just now. I don't know if I've just been blind to them, or if it's going back to that situational awareness that we were talking about right at the start. Is just that once I've had a couple, I'm more aware of them, I'm picking up more. But I think independent bottlers are now fully aware of it, and whether that's a cask price, because of the spike in prices for older whiskey is really expensive, whereas older grain we can get a 29-year-old that you can sell for 150 quid. You can't get that with malt. So we're maybe looking at a switch to grain for age and value for money. Maybe there's something in there. But we're certainly seeing more grain on the go, and I love it. I absolutely love it.
There's quite a chat. Oh, sorry, Karen. I was going to say there's quite a chat going on between Billy and Reb. Billy jumped in and answered Reb's question earlier. I think he'd asked about mixing two different drinks. So it's just kicked off a little wee chat.
I think Reb is absolutely determined to try an Oloroso, but he can't because there's no kosher Olorosos out there.
Oh, of
So he
course,
was
right.
asking if he could mix the driest Fino with a bit of port. Would that combine to give the experience of an Oloroso?
I think you're better off if you have access to PX to mix Fino and PX. Just add a dab, but that would be a pale cream, and it is very complicated because with port, they always go for that intermediate sweetness because they do partial fermentation. The process is very similar to PX production, but the challenge is that they use 24 different grapes, and it's for the most part red grape, and then sometimes they leave they leave the skins in contact, so that gives tonicity, but they also get the red berries and It's a little bit, it's an experiment. I wouldn't say that it would necessarily bring it closer because of that mix of grapes that you have with port. Even a ruby, which is the potentially the one that he was mentioning. Did he mention ruby, or am I making it up?
I
Port
think it's
style, red, sweet red
Red.
port style
A
into a
sweet
classic
red
wow.
port, yeah.
It's not heresy. It's being playful, but it would be potentially closer to a cream, to a pale cream, than to an Oloroso. But it would be a pale cream with a lot of red berries in it because of the ruby. Assuming we're going for ruby side of things.
Yeah.
I'm going to try it if I have a chance. I would have not thought about it. So
Yeah, that's interesting.
Let's all go try it. We'll meet up at Whiskey Live in Madrid and we'll compare thoughts.
When's Whiskey Live in Madrid? You maybe said earlier, but for anybody that's thinking about going, when does this happen?
It's going to be November 29th and 30th. Comms will start going fairly soon. Tickets will become available probably in August. There's a couple of bits and pieces that I need to pen down with the new platform because everything is new. It's been Whiskey Live has not been in Spain for the last 14 years. So there's a bunch of things that need to be taken care of, and beginnings are never very easy. So ticketing platforms, we will not have a website. It's going to be Instagram profile and then redirection to ticketing. But yeah, this first year is going to be a little bit suboptimal, but the focus and the owners is on bringing good brands and making sure that we'll have a good time, that the Spanish market gets acquainted with whiskey shows or traditional whiskey shows. And then there's a couple of names that may come over. Don't want to say them too loud because we're being recorded. I don't want to be called and said, "Oh, you said you would be drinking such and such, and you did not." But maybe one of the people in the chat might be collaborating, and we're just looking to find ways for that person to come over. Yes, it's Billy.
And we're like, I think you could just give it away there.
But comms will be happy, sharing things as they are fully confirmed. I don't want to sell hope and so on. Will I be at Whiskey Life Paris? I don't know. I hope to.
Well, because Ryan's based in Paris, I think. Ryan,
are you?
So yeah.
Do you want to have some Oloroso, Ryan?
Head over for some Oloroso. So are whiskey shows, like festivals, not that popular in Spain, or is it just this particular franchise hasn't been in Spain for would you just say 14 years?
Overall, we haven't had whiskey shows as such in Spain that were focused on off trade. So we have a number of on trade. Okay, Ryan is up for Oloroso. There you go.
It's really.
So up until last year, everything has been off trade. Last year, someone from Bilbao, who's a friend, started a whiskey event or covering both on and off trade and doing a bunch of things. This year was the second edition. My initiative was a little bit, it's taken a little bit longer because there's a lot of red tape. He started his own thing, and I've wanted to be very cautious, finding the right venue, finding the right time, not clashing, being able to bring people in, having enough time to talk to distilleries and brands and whoever wants to join, and then kind of pivoting, because the whiskey culture in Spain is not quite there yet. And I'm saying it with the utmost humility. It's just the reality that we have there. If you walk around and ask about, I don't know, Billy Abbott or Charlie McLean or Dave Broom or the big names, they may know Richard Patterson because there's a Dalmor boutique in the center of Madrid, but that's it. And it's going to be a limited amount of people. So it's that element of, okay, let's start, let's go back to that petrol station at Elgin and kind of ease people into things to ideally get to that point sometime in the future. The focus is going to be on education, again, with all due respect for anyone in Spain who drinks whiskey. The baseline is a big baseline of blended whiskey with a mixer. There's another big block of people who are mono or duo distillery. Don't get them out of because I drink this because that's the best and because it did. So working on those two big blocks. The gigs are there, and then we have a number of gigs, and those take care of themselves, to be honest. And we will go to whiskey shows and we will get there and we'll have our fun. But it is the whole, let's bring half a step up to the base, and then bring new things and do fun things and bring whiskey to the people, if it makes any sense, at any level. Because at the end of the day, one of the things that I'm trying to do, and I'm actually going to have a meeting with them next week, a crisp and whiskey tasting.
Nice.
So
We've spoken about that a few times on the chat. I can't remember. I think it was who was it? Was it
Greg?
Greg. Oh, yeah, we ended up chatting about whiskey and crisps for far too long on this chat, but but yeah, it's a good bit of fun because it makes it a little bit more approachable, doesn't it? Like if you could pair it with like a fun kind of snack, it kind of opens up whiskey a bit gentler than going full on geeky. Like we're going to do a flight. I'm going to talk to you about maturation and fermentation times and line arms and new make spirits. But like if you open up a bag of Monster Munch and put a dram down, you'd be like, yes, I'm here for that. Like totally understand where you're going with this.
Yeah, Ian Fatigue.
Love him.
He's great, and I was at his actually two of them. I think I went to two of his fireside tastings at Tomitau.
Yeah.
It was probably one, but knowing Ian, it felt like two because he just gives you so much.
It was more than one. We know it. We've known each other for some time, and I remember that one day I can't remember which dram was it, but there was a ganache donut that was like 5 kilos each, and we were supposed to eat one of those donuts each. And I thought, this is going to be too much and it's going to overpower the whiskey, and it did not. And it worked really well. I'm not a big fan of, very sweet, heavily chocolatied desserts with whiskey, but that one worked. And then we moved on to cigars and all that. And sometimes you just have to find the right combination. Very, very interested with food pairings because I come from the country where I come from. We like, and I think it's a good connector between the liquid and the people. As much as I think that cocktails are a great way to approach people to sherry and whiskey, food is also a very powerful vehicle to lessen the impact of 40% ABV, 46, and kind of ease people into it. And make sure that they have a point of discussion as well.
He talks quite a lot about pairings. He talks very. He's very passionate about what he does. He's like so enthusiastic, and he does talk very well about different pairings. I've heard him on a few podcasts talking about different pairings, and I love a well done pairing. I think it's easy to do a whiskey and food pairing, and but it's hard to do a really good one, like a proper well paired one.
I remember I reached out to Stuart Buchanan, one of our earlier tastes when we started off at the shop. Like, how do you do it? What do you? And he's like, "Don't worry about it. Pick something and tell the punters they'll like it. And if you tell them they'll like it, they'll like it." And basically that was his. He knew where I was coming from, really basic, and he was like, as long as you give the idea that they're going to like it and put that combination together, they're going to enjoy it no matter what. Only the small minority will pick up on the fact that, well, what am I getting? And they'll question it. You start off there, and then you'll find out yourself what people are liking and not liking. I like that mantra. Is just that assurance? It's almost like that when we talk about doing a tasting in general, if you tell people what they're going to taste beforehand, they're going to get it because you've told them they're going to get it.
Yeah, well, it's like in any tasting, if you say that such and such whiskey is going to smell like flamingo tears and unicorn eyelashes, they'll find it.
Yeah.
Flamingo tears, I love it. I'm going to use that on my next tasting. Hints of flamingo tears.
I've genuinely, I think I've brought this up at a tasting before, at a Blether before. I've genuinely had somebody say that a whiskey smelt like dingo piss.
You have said this before, yeah.
And I'm like,
that's very specific.
It was more specific. I think it was dingo piss on wet grass or dingo piss on dry grass or something like that. And I was like, I can't argue with you because I have absolutely no idea what that would smell like.
That person has had a fairly interesting life.
Yeah.
Smell dingo piss on different grasses.
On a specific grass. Yeah.
And was that a positive thing or a negative thing? Like, was that sort of like a nice memory?
I don't think it was his favourite whiskey of the night.
Okay. Interesting.
Kind of see that guy now with an air of nostalgia. It smells like dingo piss. Good old times.
Love the smell of dingo piss in the morning.
Exactly. Smells like Oloroso.
The night after Oloroso, it smells. Or the morning after.
There's something that you've mentioned, Kat, about the food pairings. I've worked quite a bit with food pairings, and I've dabbled with this and that. And for me, when people talk about food pairings, I always ask to kind of qualify. Are we talking about something we eat while we drink, or are we talking about food pairing? Because a food pairing for me is when 1 and 1 equals 3. When there's a synergy between the food, the solid and the liquid, and there's something that pops and makes you go, the fuck is this? I want more. And then it's like a revelation in your mouth.
Yeah.
There's a difference between that and having, whatever you're munching on without even giving it any thought. So I think that the food pairing dynamic has been bastardized a little bit in a way that anything that you eat, it's a food pairing now. No, and we brought you some nibbles. That's it. That's good. Happy to have nibbles because you're drinking. Good, but food pairing with I love Walkers, but the oat cakes, that's a challenging food pairing.
Yeah.
You can see them anywhere, everywhere. That's just a challenging food pairing. So just let's. Again, it all depends on situations, but we've had a very good number of tastings. With SMWS, I collaborate with a Michelin star restaurant in Madrid, and we've done really good deliberate food pairings, like red prawn tartare and one of those sweet and spicy whiskies from the society that cut through the fat of a tartare, and it's just delicious. And then some eel and blah blah blah. You can do the same thing with just a block of cheese. It has to work, and there's not. What I'm trying to say is that I'm not talking about food pairings from the snobbery side of things. Quite the opposite. It's more from the let's pay attention and see how the flavors combine.
It's the enhancement, isn't it?
Yeah.
What I love about some food pairings is you can put two combinations together, and you summed it up perfectly. 1 + 1 = 3. It's just like you'll bring out a flavor in something that is just like, wow. It's like, how does that plus that? It is so cool. And Kat, remember we were on the Whiskey Talks last year, and that topic came up in kind of the Q&A afterwards. So the talk had finished, and so this was an event by Fraser and Mitch, and whiskey dinners or pairings and that had come up, and that was exactly what you just described there, Diego. Was so I don't think it's a secluded thing; it's an industry-wide thing that everything now is a dinner or a pairing or and it was put out as an experience when it wasn't really. It was an excuse to sell a 3-course meal with some whiskey, and there wasn't much synergy between the food and the drink. I think that's what you're talking about. Is that just the next level where, and it doesn't take a lot of food. It can be a bite of something, but mix that with a whiskey, mix it with a sherry or a white, and that's where you get that unicorn tears or flamingo pish or something like that. That just wow.
But that's the whole point. I mean, anyone, and again, it all depends on the level of wow factor that you're looking for with the food pairings and so on. But anyone who knows the whiskey that they're going to utilize, and I'm not attacking anyone with this, but if you sit down and you say, all right, what are the menu options? If you've had enough, to eat and drink, you will know a little bit. You will have an intuition for how things go. And out of 5 starters, you will probably shortlist it to 2. You try it. If it's a coin toss, either or, and then you know why. And it's as you said, sometimes it's just, okay, let's toss three plates here and 3 whiskeys because they work, and that's the end of the story. I've wrapped up a meal with a chocolate brownie blah with vanilla ice cream and a peated whiskey on a sherry cask, and it worked. Not because I did it; it worked. People were just going, I don't know what to expect of this food pairing, and then they tried it and they went, I don't know why, but it works, and it did. So it just takes a little bit of. It's not knowledge. I don't think it's a knowledge thing. It's sometimes a time thing. Not talking even about not dedicating because you don't want to, but because sometimes things happen and you don't have the time to dedicate to that event the time that it deserves to prep.
I think sometimes the mistake is they've kind of read the tasting notes and then just try and pair like for like, and then you just end up with way too much of one overwhelming flavor, and you're like, this has not enhanced it, it's just magnified it and brought out something I don't particularly actually like. So but again, that's sometimes time, it's like making sure like the chef, whatever, gets time with the whiskey, making sure like there's a lot of back and forth and trying of things, because it can just be such a helpful tool to just opening up people to experiencing, really getting behind the flavors and stuff. But again, it can have the opposite effect and just maybe not work out as well as you'd hoped. So yeah, it is interesting.
But if you know why, but that's the whole beauty of the food pairings in my eyes. If you know why, if you've tried and you go, this food pairing is not 100% working, it's just 75%, and the thing that doesn't work is because I have a bit of a bitter aftertaste at the end. Some people will like that bitter aftertaste or will not mind it. Some people will complain about it, and if that individual who says, not a big fan of it, and you ask and they tell you, it's a bit of a bitter aftertaste, 100%, they feel happy because they know why, and you're relaxed because you know why. But if you go, it's delicious and like it, not too. But if we know why, it's a completely different ballgame.
It's that thing of
discussion.
Yeah, it's not bullshitting people as well, isn't it? Quite too often, I think you're sort of told what you should be tasting, or somebody else says, "Well, I don't get that, but I'm getting a wee bit of this." You like, yeah, that's really cool. It's really interesting. Sometimes I pick that up as well, instead of punching home the brand story and no, it should be this. This is what you should.
You're picking up that one. It's not on the label, so no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
There's also different ways to approach food pairing. You've mentioned, addition, but you can go for contrast as well.
Yeah.
You can go for in different directions. So if you go for contrast, sometimes the clash of flavors is going to be a little bit too aggressive to some people, and then they're going to be like, I'm not a big fan of it. Why? Just too many things happening. Sometimes it's in the word. Fine. Too many things happen. Try it with the other whiskey that you tried it with the appetizer. Boom, works because they're going in the same direction. So it's all good.
We find that a lot in gin tastings when you add garnish, and the garnish makes a big difference. And sometimes you can complement what's there, or you can contrast what's there. It's like I call it the rhubarb and custard. It's like two flavors that shouldn't go together, but you put that in a pudding. It's one of the best old school puddings you can get, rhubarb and custard crumbled. And two flavors you don't think should mix really well, but if you get it wrong, they can totally pull apart, and it's just like, that's not working. So I completely get that. But when you get it right, my God, you get it right.
When things pop, they pop, and it's just beautiful.
Yeah, a lot of fun. It's so interesting as well, though. I'm conscious of that we've kept you for like nearly 3 hours. And we're keeping Billy away from his exam study. Also, what's his face? Roy will be starting soon, so we're probably going to lose half our audience when they all decamp and head over to the Aquavite chat. But
I think Roy started an hour ago.
Oh, did he? Oh, well, okay. But yeah, it's been.
What is starting?
The
Aquavite.
Aquavite. So it's Roy. What's Roy's last name? Roy Duff. He does a live chat every Thursday, and honestly getting ready early. I think he did it first. But quite often people will start with us because a lot of the guys on the chat are all Roy. I don't know if you guys have got nicknames, because we call them the Blether, but I don't know what if they've got nicknames going over to. Oh yeah, they do actually. It's a really well known nickname. Yeah. So yeah, they decamp over there. Usually when that starts, but it's been it's been so much fun chatting to you, because there's just so much to learn, and I feel like we've only just even started on this topic, which is food pairings and stuff. It's just, I think we could probably keep you for another hour at least, but
happy to.
I thought you were just picking up a duvet there, Kat. It looked like you were just nestling in.
I feel like it's been so nice, but I'm off to my bed now, folks.
Just nestle down and keep Diego up all night.
I feel like I'm wearing a duvet. I do love my mental cardigan. But yeah, no, it's proper educated. It'd be awesome to get you back on as well, and just keep diving into the world of
Absolutely.
sherry and whiskey. Because I think we've only just kind of scratched the surface. And next time we chat, I'll have actually tried some sherries, so I'll be in a better place to.
I've tried a whole dungeon full of sherry.
She's waiting on the electrician turning up. Looked out my sexiest duvet cardi for the electrician turning up.
And a bottle of Oloroso. Done.
God, it's the one sherry I don't have in the house at the moment. So.
Well, that's saying a lot about your current situation.
I know. Women proper, straight laced.
Focus with the opening. Hey, no distractions.
No in between.
Hopefully, if the guys all head over to Madrid Live, they can come over and say hello to you. Would you be there as a sort of coordinating capacity, or would you be holding any masterclasses? Can people book into anything to meet you and see you, or?
I will probably be running up and down the show like a madman,
cool,
24/7. There might be, if things are a little bit relaxed, I am hoping to do a masterclass myself on the sherry cask. Probably on the Sunday once the Saturday is over and I see how things are going and everything is settled. But it is a little bit of a blurry space right now because there's a lot to do, and it's 5 months or 4.5 months away, but it feels like it's tomorrow, and still in that element of intense paranoia about everything. So once things are settled down, I'll probably be come October, I should be a little bit more clear about what I'll be doing. But and if anyone is interested, hit me on the Instagram, or on Instagram should be the easiest way, either for Whiskey Life or my own handle, which is Sherry Hound, which is no longer adequate because I do more things. But anyway, it's what it is.
We will go, and you'll have a flurry of new followers, so we'll go and check that out, and we'll look forward to seeing how Whiskey Live Madrid pans out. Ryan's coming over to see you as well, but I think it's mainly for the Oloroso, to be honest. I think you've pulled there. So good luck there.
If he doesn't get over to you, you can always go to Paris.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a famous line from a film, isn't it? We'll always have Paris.
Yeah, Casablanca, man.
Casablanca, yeah.
I've only watched children's films for the last 10 years, so I don't know. Because I've got kids, not because I've got a childlike mental capacity. Well, a little bit of that also.
You're very complimentary about a pink elephant hat earlier on.
I was, right? That's literally how my brain works. I know. I'm so easily pleased. I choose the man in the funny hat. That is
That's why the guy wore the gas mask, was just to please you.
Exactly. Right? He just knows what I like.
There you go. Diego, Reb has just asked if the best way to contact you. I have Reb's email. I'd love to do an email introduction. I've just put Reb for yourself at Sherry Hound in the comments there. That's Diego's Instagram handle, so you can feel free to reach out that way. But I'll do an email. If you're happy, I can do an email introduction to you both. Reb's such a knowledgeable guy. So passionate about whiskey. It's great. He's been in the shop on a tour around Scotland before, and such an interesting guy to get to know. So I hope there's some synergy there for you guys to get together.
Absolutely.
He's not keen on a dungeon chat. We've alluded to that already. So keep
because that's Oloroso. If it was a whiskey dungeon, probably he would be a little bit more inclined.
Maybe that's what it is. The Oloroso is not kosher, so he wasn't into.
That's it. And look, you just got a little flurry of new followers. Callum and Ryan are now both following you, so there you go.
Brilliant. It's been so much fun, Diego. Thank you so much for joining us and giving up 3 hours of your Thursday. It must be like 11:30 where you are. I know that's still quite early in Spanish time, but
oh goodness me,
it's way past my bedtime.
Well, you're welcome back whenever. So yeah, always welcome guest to the Blether. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. If you ever want to swing by Spain, hit me. And obviously, thank you very much for the invite. It's been lots of fun. Hope everyone in the chat had a good time. And yeah, I'll be around. We'll see each other soon.
Thank you so much. We will see you,
Thank you very much.
again soon. I hope. Hopefully, we'll get you in the new bar. We'll do a tasting, and wow more people on the wonders of sherry. It's going to be great.
Anytime,
Billy. We cannot wait to see you next week.
Let's see you, Billy.
As Billy Abbott, Doctor of Armagnac.
Yes.
Emperor of all things.
Emperor of Armagnac. Yeah. We look forward to it. We'll see you all next week.
Good luck with your exam, Billy.
Yes, good luck, Billy.
Yes.
Crossed. Get studying.
We will see you all.
Yep. See you all next week, guys.
And just a wee final plug, if you're local in Aberdeenshire, we open at 5 o'clock on Saturday with a new whiskey and wine bar. So
head over to the new bar, guys. Definitely.
Good night. Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
Have a good night. Cheers.